The expression on Emperor Zaiwen's face immediately turned smug. He smiled and cupped his fists at the other three people. I admit that our Shiwu kingdom has always been good at refining artifacts. That's why we won by a fluke. Although Emperor Zaiwen's words were very polite, his expression was very smug. Although Emperor Nanxian and Emperor Beijing didn't feel very comfortable, they felt much better when they thought of Empress Jiu, who was at the bottom. They hypocritically exchanged a few polite words. Empress Jiu stood up lazily and said, "Is today's competition over? If there's nothing else, I'll go back to the temporary residence to rest." Emperor Nanxian and the other two were speechless. Temporary residence? Since when did the Bloodstream Valley have a temporary residence of the East Phoenix Kingdom? How come they didn't know about it? This was the territory shared by the four kingdoms. How could the East Phoenix Kingdom establish a temporary residence? Thinking of this, the three men's faces immediately darkened. Your Majesty Fenghua, this Blood Creek Valley is the territory shared by the four nations. Has your East Phoenix Kingdom obtained the permission of our three nations to build a temporary palace? Pan, DN0VE1, C. M. Yunchujiu looked at the three men as if she was looking at an idiot. Don't you understand what a temporary palace means? A temporary palace is a palace that can be moved at any time. When the four nations' grand meeting is over, my temporary palace will naturally be moved away. Why are you all so nervous? But that's true. You might not have seen such a high-class thing. Let's go. I will show you around. A temporary palace is a palace that can be moved at any time. Are you trying to trick them into being uncultured? Emperor Nanxian and the other two were confused. Driven by curiosity, they followed Empress Jiu and left the VIP area. A palace maid had already laid the ground-shaking snow cashmere carpet. Empress Jiu stepped on the carpet and got on the sedan chair with an ethereal appearance. Emperor Nanxian and the other two didn't know whether to step on it or ignore it. Hei Xinjia's palanquin had already left. The three of them had no choice but to step on the carpet and chase after her. After a few steps, they finally realized that they had been fooled by that girl again. That girl was sitting in the palanquin in front of them, and the three of them were chasing after her foolishly. Wouldn't their status be revealed all of a sudden? How outrageous! Emperor Nanxian and the other two gritted their teeth in anger. They each brought their own people back to their respective encampments and decided to check out the Dongfeng Kingdom's temporary residence after dinner. After dinner, Emperor Nanxian and the other two brought their guards to the Dongfeng Kingdom's encampments. When they saw the so-called temporary residence in front of them, Emperor Nanxian and the other two were so angry that their noses almost went crooked. They saw a big tent standing there with a sign hanging on it. There were two big words written on it, temporary residence. Would you die if you didn't act cool? How could a broken tent be called a temporary residence? Shameless. However, the three of them were already here. Naturally, they couldn't go back just like that, so they could only enter the tent. Empress Jiu was very enthusiastic. She asked someone to prepare tea, cakes, and the like. She said with a smile, "Your Majesties, my temporary residence is not bad, right?" The corners of Emperor Nanxian's eyes twitched, but they didn't say anything. Yun Chuzhou didn't care and said with a smile, "I just ascended the throne, so the national treasury is empty, so I can only be thrifty." Emperor Nanxian and the other two almost vomited. You are thrifty. You are thrifty, but you use the shimmering clam beads as the curtain of the carriage? You are thrifty, but you use the ground-shaking snow cashmere as a carpet? The four of them said a few words without embarrassment, and then Yun Chuzhou changed the topic. You three, you may also know that I am the messenger of the divine phoenix. I wonder if the three divine beasts in the country have chosen an emissary. Emperor Nanxian and the other two did not expect Yun Chuzhou to ask this question, and they were momentarily stunned. The divine beasts of their three countries naturally did not select any divine beast envoys, and they did not have the honor to see the phantom of the divine beast. Yun Chuzhou continued, I wonder how the three national advisors of our country conduct themselves. Our national advisors of the East Phoenix country are quite amiable. When it came to imperial advisors, the expressions on Emperor Nanxian and the other two did not look too good. Yun Chuzhou had long since understood that compared to the imperial advisors of the East Phoenix Kingdom, the imperial advisors of the other three kingdoms were much more arrogant and despotic. Although they would not interfere in the affairs of the kingdom, they would still be forced to eat and drink. Some of them even had to choose beautiful girls to accompany them. It is hard for us to judge the character of the imperial advisors. Emperor Fenghua, I heard that you have lived in the immortal Yuan continent since you were young. No wonder you value business so much. Emperor Nanxian was obviously unwilling to talk about the imperial preceptor. The imperial preceptor was sent by the Li Hen Palace. Unless they did not want to be the emperor, they would only offend the imperial preceptor. The subtext of Emperor Nanxian's last few sentences was obvious. He was mocking Yun Chuzhou for being greedy. Who would have thought that Yun Chuzhou would lightly smile? Your Majesty, Nanxian is right. My greatest strength is my greed for money. Perhaps the Divine Phoenix likes this about me, that's why she chose me to be the Divine Phoenix envoy. The corners of Emperor Nanxian's and Yun Chuzhou's eyes fiercely twitched. Damn it, the Divine Phoenix was not a Pai Xiu. How could it choose you just because you were greedy for money? What a load of nonsense. The four of them chatted dryly for a while more. Before they parted, Yun Chuzhou faintly said, "The three of you, how can you allow others to sleep on the side of your bed? You still have to be on guard against what you should be on guard against. That's all I have to say. The three of you, please reconsider." Emperor Nanxian and the other two were taken aback. They were not fools, so they naturally knew that Yun Chuzhou was referring to the Li Hate Palace. They naturally knew that the Li Hate Palace was using them as puppets, but what could they do? Not to mention them, even if the four countries were tied together, the Li Hate Palace could crush them to death with a single finger. Perhaps he felt that Yun Chuzhou's words were sincere, but Emperor Nanxian rarely advised her, "Your Majesty Fenghua, not to mention our low-grade small countries, even high-grade countries do not dare to be enemies with the Li Hate Palace. I advise you to give up on this idea." Yun Chuzhou revealed a brilliant smile. "Thank you for your good intentions, Emperor Nanxian. There is nothing impossible in this world. If you are too cautious and do not take the first step, you will forever be under the control of others." Emperor Nanxian and the other two were truly shocked by Yun Chuzhou's smile and words. It seemed that they had underestimated this little girl. This little girl's ambition was definitely not limited to the four kingdoms. Could it be that she really wanted to be enemies with the Li Hen Palace? Was she crazy? After the three of them walked for a distance, they looked at each other. Emperor Xuan lowered his voice and said, "That little girl won't be so bold as to really make an enemy of the Li Hen Palace, right?" Emperor Nanxian asked suspiciously, "That little girl is as smart as a monkey. She won't do such a stupid thing, right?" Emperor Beijing frowned. Could that little girl be trying to trick us and then report us to the Li Hen Palace? The three of them looked at each other, and the more they thought about it, the more they felt that this was the case. Damn it! That girl was too evil. She could even think of such an evil method. Fortunately, they didn't fall for it. It was better to be careful when dealing with this girl in the future. Yun Chuzhou was naturally not trying to trick them. A person without foresight would have immediate worries. An existence like the Palace of Hatred was like a sharp sword hanging above one's head. Although everything was peaceful now and there was a chance that they would attack at any time, it was still better to be prepared. Yun Chuzhou was not surprised by the attitude of Emperor Nanxian and the other two. After all, the Palace of Hatred had used the imperial preceptor to control the four kingdoms for so long. Whether it was brainwashing or deterrence, in short, these people did not dare to easily think of going against the Palace of Hatred. Unless they were forced into a desperate situation, they would not be able to put up a fight. The four kingdoms were just a drop in the ocean of the towering continent. Moreover, they were at the bottom of the food chain. Above them were middle-grade and upper-grade kingdoms. Then there was the existence of the hateful palace. It was no wonder that they were so afraid of the hateful palace. Thinking of this, Yun Chuzhou became even more suspicious of what Xue Wuji had told her back then. The Yun family was far from being as powerful as he had said. If that was the case, why did he say that the gigolo had fallen into danger several times because he wanted to find out Yilan's whereabouts? Huh. That was not right. Xue Wuji's original words seemed to be saying that the gigolo had fallen into danger several times in order to find out her father and mother's whereabouts. Could it be that the gigolo knew her father's whereabouts? That's right. Xue Wuji also said that the gigolo had forcibly broken through a layer of seal in order to find the pill that would make her grow bigger. That was how his old illness was triggered. Where did he get that pill from? The more Yun Chuzhou thought about it, the more she felt that Xue Wuji was hiding a lot of things from her. However, she could roughly guess Xue Wuji's motive. He was probably afraid that she was not strong enough to provoke certain forces. Yun Chuzhou thought about Di Baiming and pondered for a while about the competition the next day. That was why she did not sleep well that night. She only fell asleep in a daze when it was almost dawn. Yun Zhichen and Prime Minister Sima stood outside the palace. The two of them looked at the rising sun. The two of them looked at each other. Should they wake their empress up? It was said that their female emperor of Zephyr was extremely angry when she woke up. However, the competition was about to begin the next day. If she did not attend, wouldn't the other three kingdoms think that their East Phoenix kingdom had lost because of yesterday's armament refining competition, so they didn't dare to show their faces? In the end, it was still Yun Zhichen who gritted his teeth and shouted, "Your Majesty, it's getting late. It's time for you to attend the grand meeting." Yun Chujia's lazy voice came from inside the tent. "It's good that you guys are attending. I'll catch up on my sleep and come over in the afternoon." Yun Zhichen, Prime Minister Sima, "Your Majesty, is it really all right for you to be so willful? Did you come all the way here just to catch up on sleep?" For cultivators, it was not a big deal even if they did not sleep for 3 days, let alone one night. Although the two of them were complaining in their hearts, they did not dare to disobey. They could only leave half of their men to protect Yun Chuzhou while they brought the rest of their men to the venue of the Four Nations Grand Meeting. Emperor Nan Xian and the other two were stretching their necks and waiting for Yun Chujia's arrival. They felt that they had been tricked by Yun Chuzhou yesterday, so they planned to give Yun Chuzhou some face today. Pan de N0v1 The competition this morning was to compete in alchemy. This was originally the strength of the East Phoenix Kingdom, but the alchemy skills of the East Phoenix Kingdom were getting worse and worse year by year. Now, they had completely fallen into the bottom tier. The three of them had already decided that when the time came, they would mock and ridicule Yun Chuzhou. Who would have thought that after stretching their necks for a long time, the people of the East Phoenix Kingdom still did not come? Could it be that they were too scared to come? Just as the three of them were thinking about it, they saw Yun Zhichen and Prime Minister Sima bringing a group of officials from the East Phoenix Kingdom, but there was no sign of that girl. Emperor Nan Xian asked disdainfully, "Why? Is your Emperor Feng Huo afraid of losing again today, so she doesn't dare to come?" "Your Majesties, my Emperor has some urgent matters to take care of at the last minute. He will probably be here in the afternoon," Prime Minister Sima said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. He thought to himself, their emperor's skin was thicker than the city walls. Why would she be afraid of losing face? She was catching up on her sleep. Emperor Nan Xian and the other two exchanged a look, saying that they were not afraid of losing. The competition in the morning was pill refinement, and the competition in the afternoon was array formation. She was trying to avoid the pill refinement competition. It was simply like there was no silver in this place. However, it did not matter. Anyway, when she came in the afternoon, they could still ridicule her. Moreover, as the Emperor of the East Phoenix Kingdom, she actually didn't even dare to show her face. This was simply a disgrace to her excellency. This lass appeared to be quite smart, but in reality, her cleverness was actually mistaken by her cleverness. As expected, when the subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom saw that their glorious female emperor actually hid like a cowardly tortoise, they instantly felt disgraced. Even those who were doing business seemed to have no energy to shout. Prime Minister Sima and Yun Jichen looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Your Majesty, you can really be a demon. Why are you taking a nap all of a sudden? When the host saw that everyone from the 4 countries had arrived, he jumped onto the stage and said, the second round of the competition is a pill refining competition. Each country can only choose 3 participants. In the end, the corresponding points will be given according to the ranking. Now, the participants from each country will be invited onto the stage. When Prime Minister Sima saw the participants from East Phoenix, his body stiffened, and a hint of shock appeared in his eyes. Yun Jichen, who was sitting beside him, lowered his voice and asked, Prime Minister, is there a problem? Prime Minister Sima opened the isolation array and said in a low voice, our country's participants are clearly 3 old men. They were all carefully selected by me. How did one of them suddenly become a little girl? Yun Jichen looked up and saw that among the 3 people wearing the East Phoenix country's contestant attire, there was indeed an ordinary-looking little girl. Her spiritual power level was at the 3rd layer of the spirit illusion realm. It could be said that her aptitude was mediocre. Yun Jichen frowned. Could it be that this little girl is the disciple or granddaughter of the old man from before? Perhaps something happened to the old man and that's why she temporarily replaced him. Prime Minister Sima thought for a moment. It was very likely that this was the case. He couldn't help but say angrily, how outrageous. If Dr. Yu has something to say, he can simply inform me. I'll send someone else. But now, no matter how good this little girl's appearance was, she was at most a level 13 alchemist. This time, the minimum content of the competition would be level 20 medicinal pills. Isn't this just fooling around? I'll send someone to explain the situation. Send someone else up. Yun Jichen shook his head. Prime Minister, now that the contestants have stepped onto the stage, if you say so, the people from the other 3 nations will definitely take the opportunity to mock us. Moreover, even if you send someone else up, the final result will still be in the last place. Since that's the case, just accept your mistake. Prime Minister Sima thought that what Yun Jichen said made sense. Since they were going to lose anyway, it would be better to just let it be. No wonder their Emperor Fenghua did not come. It could be imagined that after the pill refining competition ended, the other 3 nations would be filled with ridicule and complacency. Just thinking about it made him feel stifled. When Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 saw that the East Phoenix country had actually sent a little girl up onto the stage, the 3 of them curled their lips. It seemed that the East Phoenix country had broken all the rules. Had they sent such a little girl up to find an excuse for failure? How foolish. When the subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom saw that little girl, their hearts instantly turned cold. It was over. Not only had their Emperor Fenghua not come, but now he had actually sent a little girl to compete. Was he giving up completely? Not to mention getting a good ranking, this little girl probably wouldn't even be able to complete the questions, right? Which idiot had chosen this person? Wasn't this obviously going up to embarrass themselves? The people from the other 3 nations were also discussing animatedly. TSK, I think that the East Phoenix country is really getting worse and worse. At the very least, the contestants that were sent up earlier were still acting as if they were the real deal, but this time, they actually sent a little girl. Exactly, I think that they've broken all the rules. Sending a little girl up, even if they lose, it can be considered an excuse. How shameless. That's right, besides knowing how to do business, the East Foam Kingdom doesn't know anything else. Moreover, that female emperor of the Zephyr Nation is obviously someone who can harm money. Sooner or later, the East Foam Kingdom will be finished. When the people of the East Foam Kingdom heard the discussions of these people, they were both angry and angry. However, they couldn't defeat the other party in a 1-on-3 fight, so they could only vent their anger on that ordinary-looking little girl. Don't you know your own level? Don't you know your own level? If I ask you to go up, do you go up? Don't you know that the moment you go up, you will represent the East Phoenix Kingdom? Not to mention the people of the East Phoenix Kingdom, even the other two contestants of the East Phoenix Kingdom had dumbfounded expressions on their faces. They were clearly Dr. Yu of the 100 Herb Hall previously, but how did she become this little girl? Could she be an imposter? However, after thinking about it, it was impossible for her to be an imposter. If she was an imposter, firstly, there wouldn't be this set of clothes. Secondly, all the contestants had their own people to protect them. It was also impossible for her to secretly harm the physicians. Moreover, even if the physicians went on stage, they would at most be slightly stronger than them. In the end, they would still be in the bottom three. There was no need for this little girl to harm the physicians. Just as the two of them were puzzled, the host announced the countries and names of the contestants one by one. Qiu Anbang of the South Dragon Kingdom, Zhaiwenxiong. The East Phoenix Kingdom wins all of them. Emperor Nan Xian, Emperor Shiwen, Emperor Beijing, everyone. Was this host sick? The competition hadn't even started yet. How did the East Phoenix Kingdom win all of them? The host clearly felt that his words were easily misunderstood, so he hurriedly explained, everyone, don't misunderstand. This female contestant's name is All Win, so together, it means that East Phoenix Country wins all of them. What the hell? All Win? Wasn't this name too fucking confident? Yun Zhichen and Prime Minister Sima looked at each other, and Yun Zhichen said, could it be because of this name, that Dr. Yu allowed her to replace him? Isn't this too absurd? Prime Minister Sima smiled bitterly. No matter what the reason was, this all-win was a stunning feat. It was estimated that from today onwards, this name would become the laughingstock of the four nations. Among the 12 contestants on the stage, other than all of them who had won, all of them were elderly people. Everyone looked at her with disdain and contempt. Was this all-win a joke? The host continued, the content of today's alchemy competition is to refine a level 22-8 transformation life creation pill. The time limit is 4 hours, and the final ranking will be based on the rate of completion of the pill, the quality of the pill, and the length of time used. Now, the competition begins. When Yun Zhichen and Prime Minister Sima heard the content of the competition, their hearts instantly turned cold. It seemed that those who had won all could only hand in their blank papers. The subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom had the same thoughts as Prime Minister Sima. No matter how talented they would at most be a level 13 alchemist. How could they successfully refine a level 22 rank 8 life creation pill? It was over. This time, they had lost a lot of face. Although the East Phoenix Kingdom was ranked last in the previous pill refining competition, they could at least complete the refinement. This time, the domineering name of All-Win for nothing was completely wasted. They could only hand in the blank paper. Emperor Nan Xian and the other two gloated at each other's misfortune. When that little girl arrived in the afternoon, they would definitely mock her. Their East Phone Kingdom really had no one left. They actually sent a little girl to support the scene. It was simply too embarrassing. At this time, everyone on the competition stage had already started warming up the alchemy furnace. Only that person who had won all blinked his eyes, in a daze. Prime Minister Sima was really angry. If you don't have those skills, then don't go up and embarrass yourself. But now, the pill refining period was 4 hours. She wouldn't just stand there for 4 hours, right? Even if you don't know how to refine pills, don't you know how to put on an act? At least it wouldn't be so embarrassing. Prime Minister Sima quickly realized that he was thinking too much. That person who had won all didn't just stand there in a daze. Instead, he took out a chair and leisurely sat on it, to watch the show. This fellow perfectly explained what it meant to watch the show and not think that it was a big deal. He shamelessly said to himself, hey, contestant number 1, your alchemy furnace looks pretty good. How much did you buy it for? Contestant number 2, your fire marrow is a 100-year fire marrow, right? You're quite rich. Contestant number 3, I see that the storage ring on your hand is quite high-end. Did you buy it in our East Phoenix Country's Golden Jade House? Alchemy required one to calm down and concentrate. This fellow's words immediately made everyone restless. Number 1, Chiao Anbang of the South Dragon Country, shouted angrily, "All of you win." "Shut up." The little girl spread her hands innocently. "Host, judges, there isn't a rule that forbids you from speaking, right? I didn't leave my operating table, and I didn't fight. Can't you just say something? Moreover, as the top experts of the 4 nations, are you not allowed to speak when refining pills? Isn't this standard a little too bad? I'm not bragging, let alone someone speaking, even if the Earth Dragon turns over, I can still successfully refine the pills. This is the difference." The corners of everyone's mouths twitched violently. "You're really shameless. Let's not talk about whether your words are in accordance with the rules. With your level, you still have the nerve to say that you're better than others? Shameless." However, after some discussion among the judges, there was really no rule that forbade people from speaking. Therefore, the host said to Chiao Anbang, who had raised a protest, "Speaking is not prohibited in the rules, so it's not considered a violation if you win all of them." Chiao Anbang was so angry that he simply covered his ears. It was not annoying to not listen. The other contestants followed suit and also covered their ears to avoid being affected by all the wins. Although there was a difference in the strength of these 12 people, it was not to a particularly large extent. Therefore, with all of them winning and causing trouble, the gap between the 2 contestants of the East Phoenix Kingdom and the others had narrowed further. Emperor Nan Xian slammed the table angrily. The East Phoenix Kingdom is too shameless. No wonder they sent a little girl up there. It turns out that they are deliberately causing trouble. Emperor Shuan snorted coldly. Even so, the rankings of the 2 contestants of the East Phoenix Kingdom are at most at the middle level. In addition, all of them won last place. Their results combined are still at the bottom. Emperor Nan Xian felt that what Emperor Shuan said made sense. He glanced at Prime Minister Sima and the others, he sneered and said, "So, no matter how many tricks are used in front of absolute strength, they are useless. Some people, using such underhanded methods is really embarrassing." Prime Minister Sima's face was like a red cloth. He wished he could find a hole and hide in it. Where did that disaster come from? This wasn't helping their East Phoenix country, this was harming their East Phoenix country. After tormenting for a long time, even though they gained a few points, what was the use of it? Unless they could all win and enter the top 3, their East Phoenix country might not be at the bottom. However, with this fellow, let alone the top 3, they could only hand in their blank papers. It was simply too embarrassing. However, that fellow did not feel ashamed. Instead, she felt proud. She sat on the chair and watched the other contestants refine pills with a smile. She did not even take out her alchemy furnace. Emperor Nan Xian and the other 2 could not be bothered to ridicule her anymore. They kept their words and prepared to humiliate Empress Jiao in the afternoon. When the contestants saw that all of them were no longer winning, they took out the things that were stuffed in their ears. After all, it was really awkward to be stuffed like this. Soon, 2 hours had passed. During this period of time, all of them had been very quiet. They were either in a daze or resting with their eyes closed, looking like they had broken a broken jar. At this time, the herbs of the other contestants had already turned into medicinal liquid. It was estimated that in another hour, there would be contestants who would finish refining the pills one after another. At this moment, all of them stood up, stretched, and said lazily, "Sigh, stupid birds fly first. You stupid birds have almost flown enough. It's time for me to start refining pills." Those contestants almost gasped. They had never seen such shameless people. They were stupid birds. You're clearly the stupid bird, okay? Shameless. The people below couldn't help but jeer. Where did all of them come from? With such thick skin, it was simply unprecedented and unprecedented. She was going to start refining pills. Refining the 8 transformation life creation pill. Don't joke around. She was probably just randomly refining it. This way, when the competition ended, there would at least be some medicinal juice in her pill refining furnace. However, looking at her current state, it wasn't certain that the furnace would explode. When everyone saw the pill refining furnaces that all of them had taken out, they were even more dumbfounded. They saw that the pill refining furnace was actually only a middle-grade spirit tool with a few vegetable leaves hanging on it. That little girl rinsed it with water and then began to stuff medicinal herbs into it. Prime Minister Sima almost vomited blood from anger. Could it be that he didn't know how to refine pills at all? He had never heard of stuffing medicinal herbs into it without warming up. Also, could you explain why there were vegetable leaves in the raw alchemy furnace? This was an alchemy furnace, not a wok. Prime Minister Sima consoled himself. No matter what, it seemed that the proportion of medicinal herbs that were all won and released was correct. Although the refinement was not successful, at least it showed that she knew the formula for the 8th transformation life creation pill. This was not too embarrassing. Prime Minister Sima wanted to cry. His requirements had already been lowered to this extent. Please don't cause any more trouble. If you win, I'll win. However, very quickly, Prime Minister Sima was so angry that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. She actually lifted the lid of the pill refining furnace and added a purple kite grass into it. She was seeking death by playing tricks. Didn't she know that lifting the lid of the alchemy furnace during the alchemy process was a big taboo? I'll win. She should change her name to All Win. The citizens of the 4 nations who were watching the show below also laughed out loud one after another. This All Win was simply a disgrace. If the eyes of the citizens of the East Phoenix Kingdom could kill people, then All Win would have been turned into sieves by now. The people of the East Phoenix Kingdom were simply about to die from anger. Every time their East Phoenix Kingdom was in last place, it was also a disgrace, but it had never been this shameful before. This All Win was simply setting a new shameful record for their East Phoenix country. If you don't know how to refine pills, then just sit there and wait for the competition to end. Why must you be so embarrassed? Do you think this is stir-frying? If it's bland, then add some salt. If it's sour, then add some sugar. This is simply nonsense. No wonder there were vegetable leaves in front of her alchemy furnace. This little girl might just be a chef. Soon, the aroma of medicinal herbs began to spread from the alchemy furnaces of the other competitors. Only the winner kept stuffing some medicinal herbs into the alchemy furnace. Everyone was too lazy to look at her. The result was obvious anyway. She could do whatever she wanted to do. After a while, Qiu Anbang of the Nanxian Kingdom raised his hand to signal, "I've completed the refinement." Xiao Yuan from Bei Xian also raised his hand and said, "I'm done too." At this moment, everyone raised their paws and said, "Host, I'm done too." Remember, I'm in 3rd place. Everyone, did you really think that you could come in 3rd just because you said you were in 3rd place? Shameless. There was definitely a ball of medicinal liquid in her alchemy furnace. Perhaps there wasn't even any medicinal liquid in it. How could she say that she was done? The host didn't say anything and recorded it truthfully. Then, the other contestants completed the competition one after another. Now, it was the most exciting moment. The judges began to judge the final results of the contestants according to their participating numbers. The judges first went to the front of Qiu Anbang's operating table and opened the lid of the alchemy furnace. When they saw the medicinal pills inside, everyone nodded in admiration. Then, the host announced loudly, "The success rate of Qiu Anbang of the Southern Dragon Kingdom is 80%, 6 high-grade pills, 2 middle-grade pills, and 36 points." The spectators immediately cried out in surprise. Not only was the success rate of the pills so high, but 6 of them were high-grade pills. This was too amazing. Qiu Anbang was very proud in his heart. If not for that All Win troublemaker, there might have been 7 high-grade pills. But even so, the first place in the alchemy competition would belong to him. As expected, the results announced after that were not as high as Qiu Anbang's. The results of the 2 old men from the East Phoenix country were both in the middle range, which was considered pretty good. Now, only number 12 had won all of them. Although the judges felt that it was meaningless to watch or not to watch, they couldn't break the rules. So one of the judges casually lifted the lid of the alchemy furnace, then, there was no, then. That judge first opened his mouth wide, and then fainted with a choking sound. The spectators below immediately became excited. Emma. Not good. That Alwyn actually turned the 8 transformation life creation pill into poison. It actually poisoned the judge. I told you, she couldn't just randomly stuff medicinal herbs into it, right? Now, the pill that was supposed to save people has turned into a harmful pill, Pan, DN0VE1, Prime Minister Sima's head was buzzing. It was over. Someone had died. Other contestants needed points to refine pills, but those who won all the pill refining battles were going to die. The little girl on the stage was even more dumbfounded. Fuck. Punsi. The pill she refined was obviously a rank 8 life creation pill. Why did this referee faint at a glance? It must be Punsi. Shameless. The other referees couldn't be bothered to look at the pill furnaces that had all won. They surrounded the referee and gave him a round of treatment. The other 2 contestants from the East Phoenix Kingdom looked on speechlessly as they watched all of them win. One after another, they sighed. This all win was probably for a good reason. They wanted to give them a helping hand. However, no matter how much they messed around, they could not refine a poison to harm others. However, that was also true. They reckoned that she had just randomly refined it. They reckoned that she did not even know what the heck she had refined. The 2 contestants from the East Phoenix country were slightly better off, but the contestants from the other 3 countries had gloating expressions on their faces. Chiao Anbang's face was filled with indignation as he angrily rebuked, "You've won all of them. You're really morally corrupt. How can a human life be a child's play? If you don't know how to refine pills, then don't come up and harm others and yourself. Now that you've poisoned the referee to the point of fainting, what crime should you commit?" All of them had been fuming in their hearts due to being blackmailed. When they heard what he said, they were instantly enraged. Which fucking eye of yours saw that I refined a poison? If you don't know how to speak, then don't speak. Didn't you just refine 6 high-grade 8 transformation life creation pills? Do you really think you're that great? Pooey. I'm better than you even with my eyes closed. When refining pills, you're not allowed to let others speak. Why don't you shut everyone's mouths? You're not capable, yet you blame others. You're shameless. Now that you're slandering me, are you afraid that I'll surpass you when my results are announced later? Is that why you can't wait to smear me? How insidious. Chiao Anbang's old face flushed red from all the winning words. He was so angry that he was trembling. Good. Good. I won't argue with you. You poisoned the referee. You will suffer in a while. Emperor Nanxian saw that all the winners were so arrogant and could not help but frown, then he said to Prime Minister Sima, "Your East Phoenix country's contestant poisoned the referee. If that referee is fine, this matter can be reduced to a small matter. But if that referee is really in trouble, Your Majesty Fenghua must give him an explanation." Prime Minister Sima pretended to be calm and said, "Your Majesty, the matter has not been investigated clearly. It is too early to draw a conclusion. Maybe that referee has some old illness. It may not be caused by all the pills he won." Prime Minister Sima did not believe what he said. That referee was an alchemist himself. If he had an old illness, he would not have come to be the referee. Oh God, their emperor had not come for a long time and such a big mess had happened. How was he going to explain it to His Majesty? Emperor Nanxian snorted coldly. He thought that he would come to a conclusion soon anyway. Let's see how he can keep his mouth shut when the time comes. At this moment, the referee on the competition stage woke up. He first looked at the crowd surrounding him in a daze, then jumped up and pounced in front of the all-win console. The spectators' blood immediately boiled. That referee was definitely going to take revenge on all of them. There was a good show to watch. All of them subconsciously took a step back. Fuck, was this still a series of scams? The referee's face was full of excitement. He pointed at the alchemy furnace that all of them had won and said with a trembling voice, 10 high-grade pills. 10 high-grade pills. To have such results at such a young age, he is simply a genius. A genius. Everyone was stunned. What the hell was that? Why couldn't they understand what the judge was saying? What 10 high-grade pills? What genius? Could he have gone mad? The other judges looked suspiciously at the pill furnaces that had all won. Then, all of them were dumbstruck. They saw that there were 10 round 8 transformation life pills inside the pill furnaces. Moreover, all of them were high-grade pills. They finally understood why that judge fainted. This Alwyn was so young, but he actually had such alchemy attainments. If it was given time, he would definitely be an alchemy grandmaster of a generation. When Alwyn saw those judges' fierce and hungry eyes, he immediately cried out in his heart. This was already restrained, why was it still so shocking? Wasn't this towering sky continent higher level than the immortal essence continent? Why was her alchemy level so lousy? If she had known this would happen, she would have restrained herself even more. Sigh. Being too outstanding was also a burden. This fellow decided to cover it up. His face revealed an expression of fear and trepidation. Actually, I have never refined such a high-level medicinal pill. Perhaps the medicinal herbs that were randomly stuffed in took effect? When the judges heard that, they suddenly came to a realization. It must be so. They had said that no matter how talented this little girl was, it was impossible for her to be perverted to such an extent. It was likely that she had carelessly done it. They did not know how she had hit the nail on the head. Some of the judges hurriedly took out a piece of paper and pen and tried their best to recall how Yun Chujo had done it before. They recorded it down in detail one by one, preparing to go back and ponder over it again. They even wrote down the vegetable leaves. They even specially asked Yun Chujo what kind of vegetable leaves they were. Yun Chujo looked at the host and said, "Host, shouldn't you announce my results?" The host was dumbfounded as he watched from the side. This series of twists and turns was simply more exciting than what was written in the storybook. He had originally thought that this Alwyn was a joke. Who would have thought that it would actually become a legend? This was really melodramatic. The host steadied his mind and announced loudly, East Phoenix Country wins all of them, 100% pill success rate, 10 high-grade pills, 50 points. Immediately, the pot exploded. What the hell? 100% pill success rate. 10 high-grade pills. How was this possible? Don't joke around. Not to mention that little lass, even an alchemist from a middle-grade country wouldn't be able to do it, alright? However, since the host had already announced it, then it shouldn't be fake anymore. That Alwyn was really dog shit luck. He actually succeeded just by messing around. There was really no one else. Qiao Anbang and the other contestants gathered in front of the Alwyn console to watch in disbelief. When they saw the pills in the alchemy furnace and took them out to smell, their faces were instantly filled with shock. They had actually just refined them. They had lost. Prime Minister Sima's expression was simply wonderful. Disbelief, surprise, ecstasy. Then, he hugged Yun Zichin who was beside him and laughed loudly. Yun Zichin's heart was like a beeping dog. Prime Minister, you're already so old, can't you be a little more reserved? Didn't you just get first place in the alchemy competition? Did you have to be so excited? Crown Prince Yun. The heavens have eyes. Ever since the retired emperor passed away, our East Phoenix country hasn't gotten a single first place. Moreover, alchemy has always been our East Phoenix country's forte. Now that we've finally gotten first place, this is simply a joyous occasion for the entire world. No, I'll immediately go back and report the good news to His Majesty. Yun Zhichen was speechless. With great difficulty, he managed to pull back the overjoyed Prime Minister Sima. Prime Minister Sima, calm down. Calm down. His Majesty will be here in the afternoon. You can tell her when the time comes. Prime Minister Sima thought about it and agreed. If he left, it wouldn't be good if there was no one here to hold down the fort. He could only suppress his excitement and sit down again. Then, he looked at the competition stage. Now that Prime Minister Sima saw that all of them had won, he felt that this was the descent of a fairy from heaven. Her name was well chosen. All of them had won. As expected, she had won as soon as she went up. He had decided that in the future, when selecting candidates, he would specifically pick those with auspicious names, such as Eternal Victory, Undefeated, and Champion. The subjects of East Phoenix Kingdom were so happy that they were going crazy. Ha ha ha. Their East Phoenix Kingdom had finally been able to hold their heads high. That Alwyn had won first place as soon as they went up. As expected, it was their East Phoenix Kingdom's mascot. Alright, these people had completely forgotten how they had won against all of them with flying eye knives. The people of East Feng Kingdom were happy, and the expressions of Emperor Nan Xian and the other two were extremely unsightly. Not only had all of them won, but they had also won with a crushing advantage. The results of the three people from East Feng Kingdom added together had actually won first place. It was simply unbelievable. Originally, they had wanted to laugh at Empress Jiao in the afternoon. But now, they could see how Empress Jiao would be showing off when she arrived in the afternoon. Emperor Nan Xian and the others did not doubt the results of the competition, because those referees were transferred from the 4 countries, so it was impossible for them to cheat. Finally, the host announced the final result of the alchemy competition. As expected, the East Phoenix Kingdom won first place. The subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom and Prime Minister Sima were ecstatic once again. It didn't matter if the East Phoenix Kingdom was at the bottom of the other events. At least they had won the alchemy competition. Emperor Nan Xian curled his lips. Look at how promising the East Phoenix Kingdom is. We've won so many first places in the past, but we're not as smug as they are. Emperor Shuan echoed, that's right. It's no wonder. The East Phoenix Kingdom hasn't won the first place in 800 years. It's not easy for them to get it, so they naturally get carried away. Emperor Beijing said disdainfully, didn't you hear that they all won? She just happened to win by accident. She's not a talented pill-making seedling at all. What's there to be happy about? At this moment, the contestants on the stage left the stage one after another, all winning and leaving the stage. Before the subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom could surround them, the royal guards had already taken them away under strict protection. When Emperor Nan Xian saw this, he sneered in his heart. Did he really think that she was a treasure? She was just lucky. After resting for 2 hours at noon, before the start of the array competition, Empress Jiao's luxurious palanquin arrived. It was the same as the day before. All kinds of shameless slogans were written on the flag. The palace maids laid down the ground-shaking snow cashmere carpet, and then everyone knelt down to invite Empress Jiao. Empress Jiao slowly got down from the sedan chair. Unlike the bright red she wore the day before, today she wore a dress that was as white as snow. She was floating in the air like a fairy. Empress Jiao looked around and then said indifferently, rise. After Empress Jiao walked to the VIP area, she had just sat down when Prime Minister Sima said with a trembling voice, Your Majesty, we have won the first place in the pill refining competition. Empress Jiao only said indifferently, yes, I know. Prime Minister Sima, you are already quite old. You should be calmer when you encounter things. Isn't it just obtaining the first place? What's there to be excited about? If you were to obtain a few more first places, wouldn't you go crazy? Prime Minister Sima. Before Prime Minister Sima could say anything, Emperor Nan Xian mocked, Don't worry, Your Majesty Fenghua. You won't have this chance anymore. In the next competition, your East Phoenix country will only be at the bottom. Empress Jo curled her lips. That might not be the case. Let me do some calculations. This year, our East Phoenix country's luck is really good. Who knows, we might even be able to obtain a few first places in the next competition. Then we'll wait and see. Emperor Nanxian curled his lips and said. Empress Jo just smiled and didn't say anything, because this fellow was busy eating pastries. Emma, I'm starving to death. Prime Minister Sima's excitement had completely disappeared. Firstly, he had been beaten up by Empress Jo, and secondly, he was starting to worry about Empress Jo's bearing. Your Majesty. Have you been sleeping all the way until now, and you don't even have time to eat? Do you have to eat like a wolf? At this moment, the array competition began. Empress Jo did not even glance at it. After eating and drinking to her heart's content, she leaned back on the chair, and fell asleep. Prime Minister Sima, Your Majesty, you've already slept for an entire morning, haven't you slept enough? In that case, you might as well sleep in the palace. At least it wouldn't be so embarrassing. 4 hours later, the array competition ended. As expected, the South Dragon Kingdom won first place, and the East Phoenix Kingdom steadily won fourth place. Emperor Nanxian was pleased with himself. He said to Empress Jo, who had just woken up, strength is the most important thing. Luck is really unreliable. Your Majesty Fenghua, don't you think so? The corners of Empress Jo's mouth curled up. Maybe. I'm in a hurry to go back and have dinner. See you later. Prime Minister Sima, who had been worried about Empress Jo's bearing, wanted to cry out loud. Your Majesty, our Dongfeng Kingdom is rich and strong. Are you hungry? Do you have to be so greedy? I'm really worried to death. After a night of silence, the next morning, Prime Minister Sima and Yun Zhichen found that their empress was once again lazing in bed. Empress Jo's lazy voice came from inside the tent. In any case, winning first place in the pill refining competition has already exceeded my mission, so I have to take a good rest today. You guys can go. Prime Minister Sima thought for a moment. If Her Majesty went, she would either eat or sleep. It was better if she didn't go, so as to not affect Her Majesty's prestige. Thus, Prime Minister Sima and Yun Zhichen brought people to the venue. When Emperor Nanxian and the other two saw that Empress Jo did not come again, they thought to themselves, that girl probably knew that their East Phoenix country was at the bottom of the competition, so she found an excuse not to come. It did not matter. At night, they would go to her palace and ridicule her. They would definitely embarrass her. When the time came, the host stepped onto the stage. The fourth round of the competition is a talisman-making competition. Each country can only choose 3 participants. In the end, the corresponding points will be awarded according to the ranking. Now, please bring the participants from each country onto the stage. When Prime Minister Sima saw the contestants from the East Phoenix country, his face stiffened. Why did this contestant change people again? It was clearly 3 old men. Why did one of them change into a little girl? However, this little girl did not win all of the previous contestants. Not only was her appearance different, but her spiritual power level was also different. What exactly was going on? Just as Prime Minister Sima was feeling suspicious, the host announced the contestants' countries and names one by one. Su Ji from the South Dragon Kingdom, Lu Chengfei. Yi Ding from the East Phoenix Kingdom won. Everyone, she would definitely win. This host had been bribed by the East Phoenix Kingdom, right? The host was experienced this time and quickly explained, the name of the 12th contestant from the East Phoenix Kingdom is Yi Ding Win. The easy one is Yi, not the one. The host's heart was like a beeping dog. Where on earth did East Phoenix find this contestant? Why were all the names so weird? Everyone was also dumbfounded. Why were the contestants from the East Phoenix country competing with the word win this time? How badly did the East Phoenix country want to win? Didn't they win the first place in the alchemy competition yesterday? I think this Yi Dinjing might have changed his name. It's really possible. You're dreaming. If we can win with a lucky name, wouldn't it be settled if everyone changed their names? That's right. It doesn't matter if they all win or Yi Ding wins. Talisman making is our Southern Dragon Kingdom's strong point. The first place will definitely be ours. Emperor Nan Xian and the other two also had mocking expressions on their faces. Yi Ding wins. I think your Yi Ding loses. Seeing that Prime Minister Sima didn't show any strange expression, Yun Zhichen thought that he was the one who arranged Yi Ding win, so he asked Prime Minister Sima in a low voice, Prime Minister Sima, did you change the name of this contestant? Prime Minister, did you change the name of this contestant? Needless to say, this name is not worse than all of them. It's just that she's a little young. What level is she a talisman master? Prime Minister Sima, what did he change? After the competition ended yesterday, he specially went to look for that contestant who had won all of them. In the end, Commander Pang of the Royal Forest Army said that that contestant who had won all of them had left long ago. She had only done it to help the East Phoenix country fight for its reputation. Moreover, he had specially gone to look at the contestants who would be competing next yesterday. They were all very normal. Who would have thought that one of them would have been switched out today? It was Yi Ding who had won. This was simply fucking ridiculous. How would he know what level the little girl was a talisman master? Yesterday, she had been able to successfully refine pills by chance. However, today, she could not rely on luck to obtain victory in talisman refinement. Wasn't this just fooling around? Seeing that Prime Minister Sima's expression was getting uglier and uglier, Yun Zhichen immediately understood. That Yi Ding win was most likely not arranged by Prime Minister Sima. It was just that it was strange. Why was there a contestant being swapped over and over again? Was that Commander Pang blind? Pan de N0VE1 at this moment. The host on the stage began to announce the contents of the competition. Today's talisman refinement competition is to draw a level 15 phantom talisman. The time limit is 4 hours. Finally, the number of talismans and the quality of talismans will be ranked. The competition will begin now. As the host spoke, the contestants began to write rapidly. Of course, that Yi Dingjing was not one of them. That Yi Dingjing raised his claws to indicate that there was a problem. The host hurriedly asked, Contestant, do you have any questions? Can I speak? Can I eat? I haven't had breakfast this morning. The host, even in his dreams, the host never thought that Yi Dingjing would ask such a strange question. He turned his head to look at the referees. Those referees were also dumbfounded, but they still nodded. Thus, the host said with a stiff expression, Yes, you can do whatever you want. Thus, under the watchful eyes of the audience, Yi Dingjing drew the talisman paper and demon beast blood on the operating table to the side, took out a tray of small steamed buns, a bowl of porridge, and a few dishes, and began to eat happily. Thus, on the competition stage, the 11 contestants scribbled furiously while a little girl buried her head in her food. Such a stark contrast immediately made the subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom feel disheartened. This Yi Dingjing was far inferior to all of them. She was just there to make up the numbers. From the looks of it, she didn't know how to draw phantom talismans at all. Just as everyone was thinking, they heard Yi Dingjing shout, That number 1, you've been drawing for a long time. Are you hungry? Why don't I give you a steamed bun as a friend? Number 2, are you thirsty? Why don't I give you a pot of tea as a friend? Number 3, I see that your hand is cramping from drawing. Do you want to sit down and rest for a while? Yi Dingjing's shout inevitably had an impact on those contestants. Among them, a few of their talisman papers were burnt to ashes in an instant, and all of them were so angry that they gritted their teeth. However, Yi Dingjing had already asked for the referee's opinion, so they could only turn a deaf ear to her shouting and shouting. Emperor Nan Xian looked at Prime Minister Sima with a gloomy face. Your East Phoenix country is using such a despicable method again. It's really disgraceful. Prime Minister Sima's heart was on the verge of collapse. He didn't want to. He also wanted to know who had sent that weirdo. However, no matter how ridiculous his own contestant was, he couldn't say that his own contestant wasn't right. Thus, he said with an indifferent expression, "Your Majesty Nan Xian, this is permitted by the rules. You can also allow the returning contestant to speak, even if it's just singing a few paragraphs." Emperor Nan Xian snorted coldly, "Our southern dragon country is sitting upright and upright, we will not use such unrated methods. Even if your eastern phoenix country changes its name and causes trouble, the first place in this talisman crafting competition will still belong to our southern dragon country." Prime Minister Sima did not say a word. He thought to himself, if you guys are first, then so be it. What's so great about it? Anyway, they won first place in the alchemy competition. With this person at the bottom, it didn't matter in other competitions. At the very most, they would just get fourth place. In any case, they didn't get into the top 5. Why did these words sound so familiar? It seemed that His Majesty had led him astray. At this moment, Yi Dinjing finally finished his breakfast leisurely on the stage. After tidying up his things, he stretched his neck to look at the progress of the other contestants. He said with a smile, "After eating and drinking, I finally have the strength to draw talismans." Draw talismans? The corners of everyone's eyes twitched violently. It seemed that this Yi Dinjing really didn't know how to draw talismans. Otherwise, how could a talisman maker say that? Yi Dinjing picked up the talisman brush and started drawing. The audience immediately sneered. That Yi Dinjing is obviously an amateur. Even if she was drawing low-level talismans, she can't be so fast. That's right. She's probably just casually drawing a few strokes and then making up the numbers. But let's not talk about that. Her talisman paper isn't burned, which means that what she's drawing might really be talismans. Forget it. In my opinion, she didn't inject spiritual energy into it at all. Naturally, it won't burn. As time passed, a few phantom talismans that had been drawn were placed beside each contestant. Yi Dinjing also placed a few talismans beside him, but everyone felt that it must have been a random drawing by Yi Dinjing. Only the host, who was standing not far away from Yi Dinjing's operating table, had a look of surprise in his eyes. He had seen it clearly. Although Yi Dinjing was drawing very quickly, she was not just making up the numbers. Not only were the talismans she had drawn really phantom talismans, they were also of high quality. In this talisman-making competition, the first place belonged to her. The host cursed in his heart. Could it be that the winner was not simple at all? Should he change his name in the future? It was just that his surname was a little special, so it was probably not easy to call it a win. His surname was Jia. Could it be called Jiang? Wouldn't that be a loss? Just as the supporters were letting loose, no one expected a bolt of lightning to descend from the sky. With a kacha sound, it shattered Yi Dinjing's operating platform, and the already drawn talisman on it naturally turned into ashes. Everyone was stunned by this unexpected turn of events. Why would a bolt of lightning suddenly descend from the sky? Why did it also smash Yi Dinjing's console? Yi Dinjing was also stunned. She was stunned at first, then looked up at the sky. The sky was clear and cloudless, as if the heavenly lightning was just her illusion. She gritted her teeth and looked down at the mess in front of her. The heavenly lightning was very accurate. It only shattered her operating table, and the adjacent operating table number 11 was intact. However, because of this thunder, the talisman that the other 11 contestants were drawing also turned into ashes. Yi Dinjing's eyes flashed with a cold light. He said to the host, "Prepare another set of operating tables for me immediately. You have to be fast." The host was swept by Yi Dinjing's cold gaze and quickly asked the staff to move another operating table over. The host thought to herself, what a pity for this Yi Dinjing. If not for the heavenly lightning just now, she could have definitely taken first place. But now, with this, no matter how fast she was, it was impossible for her to catch up with the other contestants. She was now behind by at least 3 talismans, and there was less than 2 hours left. No matter how fast she drew, she could not catch up. Just as the host was thinking, she heard Yi Dingjing ask, "Host, tell me, what are the points for different grades of talismans?" 5 points for upper grade, 3 points for middle grade, and 1 point for lower grade. What about supreme grade? The host was stunned, but she still answered, 10 points for supreme grade. Yi Dingjing hummed lightly, then picked up the talisman brush and began to draw. This time, the speed was even faster than before. The spectators below were once again in high spirits. "Hey, did you hear that?" That Yi Dingjing actually asked how many points a transcendent grade talisman seal had. Could it be that she still thinks that she can draw a transcendent grade phantom talisman? That's right, she really overestimates herself. Such a person deserves to be struck by lightning. I think her name is the name of being struck by lightning. Otherwise, why would the heavenly lightning strike her operating platform before anyone's operating platform? Prime Minister Sima silently sighed. This time, he had added a new topic for discussion for the other 3 countries. In the future, when people mentioned the talisman competition of the 4 nations grand meeting, they would definitely say that the operating table of a certain world's 4 nations grand meeting had been struck by lightning. However, Emperor Nan Xian and the other 2 felt very relieved. That Yi Ding had acted like a demon before he won, he had struck her well. Why didn't he strike her as well? Finally, it was time for the end of the competition. Logically speaking, the host should have announced the end of the competition loudly when the time was up. However, it was unknown whether the host had been frightened by the heavenly lightning. He stood beside the 12th stage in a daze, he was completely unaware that it was time for the end of the competition. A few judges saw that the situation was not right and said loudly, "The time for the end of the competition is up. All contestants, stop what you are doing immediately. Otherwise, the result will be judged to be invalid." The host looked as if he had just woken up from a dream. He looked at Yi Dingjing as if he was looking at a ghost, and then stuttered, Yes, it's time. No more drawing." Both the judges and Emperor Nan Xian were very dissatisfied. This host had been chosen from thousands of people. How could he stutter? It was extremely disappointing. The judges began to evaluate everyone's results. When the judges saw the results of the second contestant, Lu Chengfei, they could not help but exclaim in admiration. Only the eyes of the host flashed with disdain, this result was far inferior to that of Yi Dingjing. For high grade and 2 middle grade. Not only did he complete 6 phantom talismans in such a short time, but the quality is also so high. I think he will definitely be number 1 today, a judge from the Southern Dragon Kingdom praised. Although the judges from the other 3 countries were not very comfortable, they had to admit that Lu Chengfei's results were really good. Another referee from the Southern Dragon Kingdom echoed, "Not bad. There's basically no need to continue reading. It's impossible for there to be another contestant with better results than him." A referee from the Eastern Phoenix Kingdom really could not stand their arrogance. He said coldly, "That might not be the case. There are still 10 contestants left. Perhaps there will be someone with better results than him. TSK, even if someone's result is better than number 2's, it won't be your Eastern Phoenix country's contestant. Which year's talisman competition doesn't your Eastern Phoenix country get the last place?" That's right. This year, they even sent Yi Ding to win. This is really hilarious. I really want to see how she will definitely win. The 2 Southern Dragon countries' judges echoed each other. Their sarcastic words made the 2 Eastern Phoenix countries' judges both embarrassed and angry. However, the Eastern Phoenix country's talisman-making level was indeed the lowest among the 4 countries. They actually did not know how to refute. At this moment, the host said, "Let's continue reading. Who knows if there will be a surprise." The 2 referees of the South Dragon Kingdom glared at the host fiercely, thinking to themselves, is there something wrong with this host's head? He actually openly spoke up for the people of the East Phoenix Kingdom. The two referees of the East Phoenix Kingdom nodded their heads gratefully at the host, and the crowd continued reading. The results of the next 9 contestants were not as good as Lu Chengfei's. The two referees of the South Dragon Kingdom looked even more proud. One of them said, "How is it? I told you that the first place would belong to our South Dragon Kingdom. What else do you have to say now?" The faces of the two referees of the East Phoenix Kingdom turned red, and they were speechless. What else could they say? Contestant number 10 and contestant number 11 belonged to the Eastern Phoenix country. Each of them had only completed 5 talismans, and only one of them was a high-grade talisman. The rest were all middle-grade talismans. They could not be compared to that Lu Chengfei at all. One of the Southern Dragon Country referees looked at the host and said, "Announce the results." Contestant number 2, Lu Chengfei, is in first place. The combined points of the 3 contestants from our Southern Dragon Country will definitely be in first place. The expression on the host's face was very subtle. She pointed at Yi Dinjing and said, "Judges, there's still one more contestant. It's not too late to announce her results after you've evaluated her results." The Southern Dragon Country's judge snorted in disdain. "It doesn't matter whether she looks at her results or not. She doesn't know how to draw phantom talismans at all. Even if she does know how to draw phantom talismans, she could at most finish 2 or 3 talismans after her console was struck by lightning. The East Phoenix Kingdom's points will definitely be last, PN0VE1. The expression on the host's face was even more subtle. She said indifferently, "Whether it is meaningful or not, she is a contestant. All the referees, please take a look." The judge from the Southern Dragon Kingdom looked at the host with dissatisfaction. Then, he walked to Yun Chujia's operating table and saw a few talismans placed on the side. He said disdainfully, "TSK. There are quite a lot of them, but what's the use? I think they are all random drawings." Yi Dinjing did not say a word from beginning to end because he was afraid that there would be another heavenly lightning strike. He guarded the operating table with full vigilance. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. The judge of the Southern Dragon Country casually picked up a talisman and then stood there like a wooden chicken. The host thought to himself, "Damn it. I told you to show off. I told you to not know the immensity of heaven and earth. Are you shocked? Are you dumbfounded? What shocked you is still to come." The other judges saw that the judge of the Southern Dragon Country had a dull look on his face and could not help but be puzzled. They hurriedly walked over and looked at the talisman in his hand. One of the referees cried out in shock, "Transcendent grade. It's actually a transcendent grade phantom talisman." The 2 referees from the East Phoenix Country almost hugged their heads and cried bitterly. Even if the East Phoenix Country was still number 1 in the end, with this transcendent grade phantom talisman, their East Phoenix Country could be considered to be able to hold their heads high. When Lu Chengfei heard the referees mention the transcendent grade phantom talisman, his head buzzed. However, he consoled himself that even if he could draw a transcendent grade phantom talisman, so what? That Yi Dinjing couldn't possibly have more points than him. Right at this moment, one of the Eastern Phoenix Country's judges let out a roar, and tears streamed down his face as he wailed loudly, "Our Eastern Phoenix Country has finally produced a talisman-making genius. The heavens really have eyes. The heavens have blessed our Eastern Phoenix Country." Whether it was Lu Chengfei or the onlookers, they all felt that this judge was too exaggerated, right? Although the super-grade talisman seal was very difficult, wasn't it just a dog, shit, or lucky drawing? Was there a need to be so excited? Right at this moment, the other referee from East Phoenix also howled. He was even more excited than the previous referee. He said incoherently, First. Our East Phoenix is the first place in the talisman-making competition." Ha ha ha. Prime Minister Sima covered his eyes with his hand. Damn it, he couldn't bear to look at them. If he had known that these 2 people's psychological quality was so bad, he wouldn't have sent them to be the judges no matter what. It was simply too embarrassing. Their East Phoenix Kingdom's points were currently less than the South Dragon Kingdom's by more than 30 points. Although that Yi Dingjing had drawn a transcendent grade talisman seal, his points couldn't possibly exceed 30 points. Could it be that these two judges didn't know how to count? At this moment, the referee's acclamations and gasps rang out one after another on the competition stage, mixed with sounds like genius, impossible, this is simply a miracle, and so on. Everyone was very puzzled. What on earth had happened? One by one, they stretched their necks to look at the stage. Unfortunately, they were too far away and couldn't see anything at all. Finally, those referees calmed down. However, the two referees from the South Dragon country were flushed red in the face and looked ashamed and indignant. The two referees from the Eastern Phoenix Kingdom were beaming with joy. They looked at Yi Dingjing as if he was an ancestor made of spirit stones. The host was very satisfied with the shocking scene of these people. In comparison, he had been too calm before, okay? Pan de N0V1 he cleared his throat and announced loudly, contestant number 12, Yi Dingjing wins. He has 4 supreme grade phantom talismans and 40 points. The total results of the talisman making competition are as follows: first place, East Phoenix Kingdom, 74 points, second place, South Dragon Kingdom, 66 points. Prime Minister Sima was stunned at first, then he jumped up from his seat and jumped more than 3 feet high. Ha! Ha! We are first place. Ha! We won. Our East Phoenix Kingdom actually won 2 first places. Ha! Yun Jichen, was this still the old Prime Minister who was always reminding His Majesty about his bearing? The subjects of East Phoenix Kingdom also began to cheer wildly, one by one they cried out, the cheers were simply deafening. Many of the East Phoenix Kingdom's subjects hugged their heads and wept bitterly. Woo-woo, I never thought that in my lifetime, I would actually see our East Phoenix Kingdom obtain first place in 2 events. Our East Phoenix Kingdom's talisman-making technique has finally walked out of the country. It has finally walked towards the 4 kingdoms. That's right, my great-grandfather's great-grandfather had such an impossible wish. I never thought that it would actually come true today. On the stage, Yi Dingjing looked at the jubilant citizens of the East Feng Kingdom with a deep gaze. It seemed that even though he said that he did not mind, everyone had a competitive heart, there was nothing that could stimulate the pride of a nation's citizens more than such a victory. Right at this moment, someone took the lead and said, all of this is a blessing brought by our emperor. Our emperor is the divine phoenix envoy. That's right, once Her Majesty Fenghua ascended the throne, our East Phoenix Kingdom obtained 2 first places. This is all thanks to Her Majesty Fenghua. The beauty of the female emperor is unparalleled in the world. The beauty of the female emperor is like a fish that has sunk into the depths of the ocean, like a bird that has fallen, like a bird that has fallen, like a bird that has fallen into the depths of the ocean, like a bird that has fallen into the depths of the ocean, like a bird that has fallen into the depths of the ocean, like a bird that has fallen into the depths of the ocean. The beauty of the female emperor is invincible. Emperor Nan Xian and the other 2 had ugly expressions on their faces. Firstly, it was because the East Phoenix Kingdom had obtained 2 victories in the competition. Secondly, when they saw the loyalty and fanaticism of the East Phoenix Kingdom towards the female emperor, they felt a sour feeling in their hearts. They didn't have such prestige in their respective countries. That girl had ascended the throne less than a year ago. How on earth did she do it? They couldn't help but feel fortunate. Fortunately, that girl didn't come today. Otherwise, she would have been extremely smug. They didn't know where the East Phoenix Kingdom had found the 2 wretched girls, Yi Dingjing and Dong Feng. They were truly caught unprepared. Emperor Beijing's expression was even uglier than the other 2. No matter what, the West Martial Kingdom had obtained the first place in the weapon refining competition and the South Dragon Kingdom had obtained the first place in the array formation competition. Only the North Mystic Kingdom had yet to reap any rewards. Fortunately, the beast taming competition was to be held in the afternoon. This was the strength of the North Mystic Kingdom, and the first place belonged to them. At this moment, Prime Minister Sima finally calmed down a little and suddenly rushed out of the VIP area. Yun Jichin shouted in shock, "Prime Minister, where are you going?" "This old man is going to take a look at that Yi Dingjing. This old man wants to thank her properly," Prime Minister Sima said as he ran to the bottom of the competition stage, his face full of piety as he waited for Yi Dingjing to step down from the stage. It wasn't just him. The citizens of the East Phoenix Kingdom were all crying tears of excitement as they waited for Yi Dingjing to step down from the stage. Yesterday, when all of them had won and left the stage, they had been taken away by the royal guards. They didn't have the time to express their excitement at all. No matter what, they couldn't let Yi Dingjing leave just like that today. They had to thank her properly. Many merchants of East Phoenix Kingdom did not even do business. They had already thought it through. When they saw Yi Dingjing later, they would give their nuts to her. They were grateful that she had let them realize a great dream. When Yi Dingjing saw the crazy scene below, he could not help but feel a little pain in his head. Under his sleeve, he took out a voice transmission talisman, frowned, and said a few words before putting it away. Very quickly, Commander Pang of the Royal Forest Army led many of the Royal Forest Army to separate the fanatical subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom. Even Prime Minister Sima was mercilessly driven to the side, and then escorted Yi Dingjing out of the venue. Prime Minister Sima was so angry that the old man could not care less about his bearing. Pointing at Commander Pang's back, he jumped and scolded, "You little bastard. Just you wait, I must find His Majesty to write you a book." Yun Jichin finally managed to stop Prime Minister Sima, who insisted on going back to the headquarters to complain to Empress Jiu. He felt so tired. Prime Minister Sima was originally a very stable old man. Why did he become so lively now? He must have been led astray by His Majesty. Prime Minister Sima was like a chatterbox. He kept chattering beside Yun Jichin. The general content was nothing more than His Majesty's fortune reaching the heavens. His Majesty had brought great fortune to the East Phoenix Kingdom. From now on, the East Phoenix Kingdom would no longer be the last in 1,000 years. From now on, the East Phoenix Kingdom would have to hold its head up high. Emperor Nanxian and the other two gritted their teeth when they heard this. Emperor Nanxian said disdainfully, "Isn't it too easy for the East Phoenix Kingdom to be satisfied? Last time, our South Dragon Kingdom obtained the first place in 3 events. We weren't as smug as them." Emperor Shiwen curled his lips. "They are just poor people who suddenly became rich. How can they compare with our 3 kingdoms?" "Exactly. This time, they just got lucky. I don't know where they came from, but all of them won and Yi Ding won. I don't believe that they can come out and win during the beast taming competition," Emperor Beijing said disdainfully. After lunch, the beast taming competition began. Prime Minister Sima was extremely relaxed now. No matter what the results of the beast taming competition and the spiritual power competition were, their East Phoenix country had already greatly exceeded their mission this time. It was simply wonderful. However, when he saw the contestants on the competition stage, he couldn't help but sit up straight. Oh my, another little girl had appeared. Could it be that they had won again this time? He was not the only one who thought so. Everyone looked at the little girl. Strange things happened every year, and this year, there were especially many. The East Phoenix country was only at the first level of the spirit illusion realm this year. This little girl's spiritual power level was really weak. Moreover, her face was sallow, and her looks were really not that good. The host deliberately took a look at the name list. When his gaze landed on the last contestant's name, the corner of his eyes twitched violently. After a pause, he began to announce the names of the contestants one by one. Zheng Heshuan of the South Dragon Kingdom, Hong Xingfa. Bai Shuiying of the East Phoenix Kingdom, Pa, and Nov, one Emperor Nanxian and the other two, as well as all the onlookers, were already numb to this kind of trick. This little girl was probably called Bai Shuiying. The names of the people of the East Phoenix Kingdom were really weird. It was simply a team win. Seeing that everyone had a look of understanding, the host simply did not explain further. He continued, the content of today's beast taming competition is to control the blood-sucking warblers. The time limit is 4 hours. The points will be evaluated according to the number of successful taming. Following the host's words, the 12 contestants entered a transparent barrier. Then, a referee placed 20 blood-sucking warblers inside. At this moment, there was an uproar in the audience. Wasn't this too fucking difficult? The blood-sucking warbler had a sharp beak and flew extremely fast. If one was accidentally pecked by it, it would quickly suck human blood. It was very brutal. Moreover, as everyone knew, the blood-sucking warbler was the most unruly demon bird. After the blood-sucking warbler was caught, it would rather commit suicide than be tamed as a human spiritual pet. How could these contestants successfully tame the blood-sucking warblers? If things went wrong, they might even get injured, especially when Bai Shuiying only had level 1 spiritual power. She was simply looking for trouble. The blood-sucking warblers had obviously been starved for a few days. Their eyes were filled with a fierce light as they could not help but look at Bai Shuiying, who had the weakest spiritual power. There was a withered tree in the enchantment. The blood-sucking warblers landed on it and stared at Bai Shuiying fiercely. They were obviously afraid of the others. They did not attack Bai Shuiying immediately. Instead, they flapped their wings tentatively. The contestants frowned. These blood-sucking warblers were different from other demon birds. They were very united. If they were not careful, they would be surrounded by these blood-sucking warblers. They had to act cautiously. The 3 contestants from Bai-Xian Kingdom were obviously calmer. They all had the experience of successfully controlling the blood-sucking warblers. However, these blood-sucking warblers had just been let in, and their stamina was at its peak. It was better to wait a little longer. The other 2 contestants from Dongfeng Kingdom glanced at Bai Shuiying and warned in a low voice, these blood-sucking warblers are very fierce. Don't stay far away from us, lest you are attacked by them. A faint light flashed in Bai Shuiying's eyes, and she nodded. Thank you, both of you. I'll be careful. Seeing that the little girl had been following closely behind the other 2 contestants from the East Phoenix Kingdom, the blood-sucking warblers didn't act rashly. They were quite intelligent, so they naturally understood that these people were here to control them. It was simply wishful thinking. The blood-sucking warblers would rather die than become the spiritual pets of foolish humans. Thus, both sides were in a stalemate for a period of time. Finally, the blood-sucking warblers could not hold back anymore. They had been starving for several days. How could they hold back when food was right in front of their eyes? Moreover, they knew that these people were here to control them and would not take their lives, so they had nothing to fear. They still regarded Bai Shuiying, who had the weakest spiritual power, as their primary target. Almost in an instant, all the blood-sucking warblers swooped down in Bai Shuiying's direction. Bai Shuiying had been staring at the blood-sucking warblers for a long time. Seeing them swooping down, this fellow began to shuttle back and forth among the crowd, shouting as he ran, "Oh my God! Are these birds crazy? Why are they attacking me? Help! Uncle, it's an emergency. Please, quick, help me block them. Brother, I can tell that you're not ordinary. Quick, hurry up and attack." The contestants from the other 3 nations were so angry that they were twitching. You're too mean. You're attracting trouble. But there was nothing they could do. The blood-sucking warblers were so hungry that their eyes were red. Seeing Bai Shuiying running around, some of them were still chasing after her, while some of them simply attacked the other contestants. The contestants had some leeway. After all, their ultimate goal was not to kill the blood-sucking warblers, but to control them. Therefore, the blood-sucking warblers had nothing to fear and attacked even more crazily. Both sides fell into a chaotic battle. Of course, Bai Shuiying had only been running around screaming and did not have any strength left to fight back. However, it was strange that none of the blood-sucking warblers managed to peck her. In the end, the blood-sucking warblers simply gave up on her and turned to attack the other contestants. When Bai Shuiying saw that there were no more blood-sucking warblers chasing her, she plopped down on the ground and sighed, "Oh, this competition is too difficult. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have participated in it. Other competitions only test the contestants' abilities. This beast-taming competition is simply fatal." The subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom originally had high hopes for this little girl who was also of the Wind generation. Now that they saw her, they were instantly discouraged. Let alone winning, this fellow was probably blessed by the divine phoenix to be able to keep his little life. Soon, 2 hours passed. Although the blood-sucking warblers were not successfully controlled, their feathers were messy and they flew back to the withered tree in a sorry state. Their spiritual power level was not as high as these contestants. If it were not for these contestants trying to control them, they would have died a long time ago. The 3 contestants from Bei Xian Kingdom looked at each other and then walked to a place not too far away from the withered tree. The 3 of them each took out a pill. Obviously, the pill had a strong attraction to the blood-sucking warbler. The blood-sucking warbler began to become anxious. A few of them flew away from the withered tree, but when they were halfway there, they flew back again. It was obvious that they were very conflicted. When the people from the other 3 kingdoms saw this, their hearts turned cold. The Bei Xian Kingdom was indeed good at beast taming. They had obviously come prepared. These blood-sucking warblers were already extremely hungry. The pills in the hands of the 3 men from the Bei Xian Kingdom were even more attractive to them. Perhaps a few of them would give in. As time passed, the blood-sucking warblers on the withered tree rose and fell frequently. A few of them had even reached the vicinity of the 3 men from the Bei Xian Kingdom, but they had not made up their minds yet. Emperor Beijing had a smug look on his face. Their Bei Xian Kingdom would definitely win this beast-taming competition. And it would be a complete victory. The other 3 kingdoms would probably not be able to successfully control a single blood-sucking warbler. The 3 people of Bei Xian Kingdom also had smug looks on their faces. It was not that they were bragging, but in terms of beast-taming ability, these people were not their match at all. At this moment, they heard a wicked voice say, "Hey, those little bastards, aren't you the most courageous ones? Don't tell me you don't have any moral integrity just because of a pill. Little bastards." Those blood-sucking warblers were so angry that they couldn't even fly. They looked towards the voice and saw that the little girl with the weakest spiritual power was looking at them with a wretched smile. The blood-sucking warblers were instantly enraged. The feathers on their bodies exploded. This detestable little girl actually dared to scold them. She was simply courting death. Therefore, all the blood-sucking warblers couldn't care less about the lousy pill. They charged towards Bai Shuiying once again. Bai Shuiying did the same trick again. She ran all over the field with a whoosh. As she ran, she said, "A little bitch is a little bitch. Why are you chasing after little miss for no reason? Do you think that little miss is prettier than all of you?" The spectators were all stunned. Was this Bai Shuiying crazy? She was playing tricks on them. Wasn't she afraid that these blood-sucking warblers would kill her? The 3 contestants from Bei Xian Kingdom were so angry that they were about to puke. They were about to succeed, but they were interrupted by this stinky girl. It was really too hateful. Therefore, when Bai Shuiying ran over, the 3 of them deliberately blocked her way. They were very pleased with themselves. It was not convenient for them to deal with this stinky girl, so they let the blood-sucking warblers kill her. Unexpectedly, Bai Shuiying took out a large piece of demonic beast meat from her storage ring and threw it into the distance. Then, she said, "This is a gift from Miss. Go and eat it." When the blood-sucking warblers smelled the smell of blood, they immediately gave up attacking Bai Shuiying and swarmed toward the piece of demonic beast meat like a swarm of bees. Bai Shuiying looked at the 3 people from Bei Xian Kingdom provocatively, then, she said, "You guys are really despicable. You actually used drugs to seduce the little bitches. Although those little bitches are a little stupid, they are still creatures born and bred. What you guys are doing is simply an insult to them. The three people from Bei Xian Kingdom felt as if they were bickering with dogs in their hearts. If you call them little bitches, it doesn't matter if you call them stupid. But if they use drugs, are they despicable? Is that really a good double standard? Before the three people from Bei Xian Kingdom could say anything, Bai Shuiying continued, the little bitches have guts. How can they be controlled by humans just for a mouthful of food? Little bitches, am I right? The blood-sucking warblers were on the verge of breaking down. If they said she was right, it meant that they were admitting that they were little bitches. If they said that she was wrong, then wouldn't they be spineless? The blood-sucking warblers were in a dilemma. They simply ignored this fellow and pretended that they didn't hear what he said. Bai Shuiying jumped to the vicinity of the blood-sucking warblers and took out another piece of demonic beast meat and threw it to them. She sighed and said, "Eat. Eat. You should be free elves who should be flying in the wild. Now, you have become so pitiful. It really makes people sympathize. Sigh, actually, you also know that even if you don't succeed in being controlled by us, your fate will most likely be to be killed and eat meat when you go back. I heard that your meat is quite delicious. The tendons and teeth are elastic, especially the soup. That taste, it's simply delicious." The blood-sucking warblers were instantly thrown into confusion in the wind. What did this damn girl mean? The first few words were spoken in human language, but why did the last few words sound so terrifying? Don't worry, I'm just saying. The person who captured you might not really eat you. At most, they'll just feed you to their own spiritual pets. Bai Shuiying comforted them. The blood-sucking warblers were so angry that their hair stood on end. Was there a difference between being eaten by someone and being eaten by a demon beast? However, they immediately lost the mood to continue eating the demonic beast's meat. This wretched girl was right. They could not escape death no matter what. Regardless of whether they denied ownership, they would still die in the end. Their offensive power was not strong. No one was really willing to raise a blood-sucking warbler as a spirit pet. It was only because they were unruly that they were used as sacrificial objects in the competition. As a result, the blood-sucking warblers flew back to the withered tree. Although the three people of Bei Xian Kingdom teased them with pills again, the blood-sucking warblers did not pay any attention to them. Everyone was puzzled by Bai Shuiying's actions. What was she doing? Was she just trying to stir up trouble? Emperor Beijing was so angry that he snorted, "Shameless. Shameless." None of the so-called winners from the East Phoenix Kingdom were good. It was one thing that she didn't have the ability to tame beasts, but she actually stirred up trouble that even the contestants from our North Xian Kingdom couldn't tame. She was really shameless. Emperor Nan Xian and Emperor Shiwen were gloating in their hearts. In any case, the contestants from their two countries couldn't tame beasts successfully. In that case, no one should score points. Time passed quickly. There was only 15 minutes left until the end of the beast taming competition. At this time, Bai Shuiying strolled to the front of the withered tree. "Hey, little bitches, I'll give you a chance to change your fate. Establish a temporary contract with me. After the competition is over, I'll let you go. I'm a man of my word. If I'm lying, I'll be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." Boom! A purple heavenly lightning struck the barrier. Fortunately, the barrier was strong enough, but it still gave everyone a fright. Pan de N0ve1 Bai Shuiying was furious. This heavenly lightning was simply her sworn enemy. She rolled her eyes and said, "Did you see that? Although there's no such thing as the heart demon oath in Towering Sky Continent, the sound of the heavenly lightning just now means that Tian Dao has already known about my oath. You should believe me now, right?" Chapter 33-37, Category 1. Both the blood-sucking warblers and the crowd were stunned by Yun Chujia's words. What the fuck? So that was her plan. This guy was too mean. Was she planning to take revenge? Moreover, not only did she want to win the competition, but she also wanted to abduct those 20 blood-sucking warblers. What do you mean she would definitely release them? Who would believe it? There was no such thing as the heart demon oath in Towering Sky Continent. The heavenly lightning just now must have been a coincidence. After all, the talisman-making competition had also been struck by the heavenly lightning. However, everyone felt that the blood-sucking warblers would not agree to it. If they could simply trick the blood-sucking warblers into recognizing them as their masters, then they would not be blood-sucking warblers. A contestant from Bei Xian Kingdom said disdainfully, "By Shuiying, don't waste your energy. You are harming others without benefiting yourself. These blood-sucking warblers will never recognize you as their master, unless they have lost their minds." That's right. They are not old, but they are full of evil thoughts. Just give up. Another Bei Xian Kingdom's contestant echoed. They hated this little girl to death. If not for her, they would have been able to control at least 3 blood-sucking warblers by now. Would she still want to kill them all? Dream on. Bai Shuiying ignored them. Instead, she looked at the blood-sucking warblers on the withered tree with a smile. Hey, this is your only chance to regain your freedom. Since you are all going to die anyway, why don't you trust me this once? After all, I'm the only one who can feed you on this stage, right? The blood-sucking warblers flapped their wings restlessly and didn't know what to do at that moment. At that moment, Bai Shuiying sighed and said, "Forget it. It's not sweet to force things. Since you don't want to, then forget it. Anyway, what does it have to do with me if you're skinned and eaten? I'm just too kind. Come and read on our website Wuxia World site." Thanks. After saying this, Bai Shuiying turned around and walked to the furthest corner from the withered tree, not even looking at the blood-sucking warblers. The blood-sucking warblers were obviously more anxious. They started to chirp, as if they were discussing something. Then, they all flew towards Bai Shuiying. The 3 contestants from Bei Xian Kingdom immediately showed gloating expressions. Those blood-sucking warblers were probably preparing to attack that stinky girl, and that stinky girl still wanted these blood-sucking warblers to recognize her as their master. How naive. Who would have thought that not only did those blood-sucking warblers not attack Bai Shuiying, but they even obediently established a temporary contract with that little girl, and then flew around that little girl like 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix. Everyone was stunned by this unexpected turn of events. They had previously treated it as a joke, thinking that those blood-sucking warblers would never be able to establish a temporary contract with that Bai Shuiying, but now, it had actually succeeded. So the beast-taming technique could be used in this way. So it turned out that just a few snaps could contract the most unruly blood-sucking warblers. Those referees and hosts were clearly dumbfounded too. It wasn't until quite a while had passed since the end of the competition that they opened the enchantment and announced that East Phoenix Country had won the first place in the beast-taming competition. Yun Zhichen had experienced this time. He nervously stared at Prime Minister Sima, in case the old man made any more shocking moves. Unexpectedly, Prime Minister Sima's face was very calm. Yun Zhichen heaved a sigh of relief. Prime Minister Sima was still relatively calm this time. Just as he thought of this, he saw Prime Minister Sima faint with a choking sound. Yun Zhichen, all right, forget he said anything just now. Prime Minister Sima woke up very quickly. He held Yun Zichen's hand and spoke incoherently in excitement, "Number 1. 3 number 1. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. Our East Phoenix Kingdom has created a miracle. The number 1 overall score is also our East Phoenix Kingdom's. Ha ha ha. This won't do. I must immediately return to the palace to report this great news to His Majesty. I want to share this great honor with His Majesty." After Prime Minister Sima finished speaking, he dashed out like a rabbit. Yun Zhichen wanted to stop him, but it was too late. He could only watch as the old man ran away as if his butt was on fire. At this moment, the subjects of East Phoenix Kingdom had all gone crazy. Those merchants had even begun to give away the goods they sold. No money. Everything today is free. Ha ha ha. Our East Phoenix Kingdom has 3 first places, ha ha ha. That's right, it's free. It's free. Our East Phoenix Kingdom is number 1 in total points. Ha ha ha. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 were so angry that they were twitching. The East Phoenix Kingdom, which was ranked last in 10,000 years, had actually obtained first place in 3 events this time, especially in the beast taming competition. That by Shuiying alone had obtained 100 points, even if the East Phoenix Kingdom did not participate in the last spiritual power competition, they were still number 1 in total points. Originally, they had wanted to properly ridicule that little girl, but who would have thought that in the end, they would actually let their East Phoenix Kingdom obtain the first place in the overall score. Where would they put their old face? Prime Minister Sima sprinted all the way back to the East Phoenix Kingdom's base and arrived outside Empress Zhou's temporary palace. Stretching his neck, he shouted, "Your Majesty! Your Majesty! This is a joyous occasion. Not only did we obtain the first place in 3 competitions, but the first place in the overall score is also our East Phoenix Kingdom's. Please quickly follow me to the venue." Prime Minister Sima shouted for a long time, but there was no movement inside. Instead, a palace maid came out and said with a smile, "Prime Minister, His Majesty has said that she wants to dress up and go to the venue in a moment. He wants you to go back first." After such a round of torment, Prime Minister Sima's excitement had already weakened a little. Hearing the palace maid say this, he immediately ran away with a skip. The palace maid and the guards looked at Prime Minister Sima's lively back and their eyes twitched. Did this Prime Minister Sima return to his youth? After lunch, before the final spirit power competition had even begun, Empress Zhou's luxurious sedan chair once again made a grand entrance. It was still a familiar formula and a familiar smell. However, when Empress Zhou came out of the sedan chair, with each step, fresh flowers bloomed on both sides of the pure white ground-shaking snow cashmere. This perfectly explained what it meant to be loved by everyone. Flowers bloomed. Empress Zhou wore a dress that was as bright as fire, looking down at the world with such nobility that people could not help but want to kneel and submit to her. The subjects of East Feng Kingdom once again roared and roared. However, compared to the usual times, this time, the shouts were clearly more heartfelt. The moment their female emperor ascended the throne, it allowed their East Feng Kingdom to obtain the first place in the grand gathering of the 4 kingdoms. All the glory was brought by their majesty. Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 were both angry and annoyed, and they were even a little jealous. How could this little girl be loved by the East Phoenix Kingdom subjects? If it weren't for those 3 who won, their East Phoenix Kingdom would still be at the bottom this time. Damn it, they didn't know what the origins of those 3 who won were. How come they had never heard of it before? Empress Zhou slowly walked to the front of Emperor Nanxian and the other 2, she smiled faintly and said, "Your Majesties, for the last spiritual power competition, our East Phoenix Kingdom has decided to forfeit. After all, if we were to obtain first place again, TSK, it would really be a little bullying." Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 almost choked with anger. This girl was really too cocky. Even if the East Feng Kingdom did not forfeit, they would not be able to get the first place in this spiritual power competition, alright? Emperor Nanxian snorted coldly, "Your Majesty Fenghua, even if your East Feng Kingdom takes part in the spiritual power test, there is a high chance that you will still be in 4th place. So, don't say anything nice. It can't be that your East Feng Kingdom doesn't dare to take part in the competition, right?" Yun Chuzhou spread out her hands, "Alright, since your Majesty Nanxian insists on it, just pretend that I didn't say what I said just now. However, don't worry, the 3 of you. I have already instructed our contestants to show mercy during the competition." Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 were so angry that they couldn't help but snort. This girl was really too infuriating. Very soon, the time for the last spiritual power test was up. The method of the spiritual power competition was very simple. Each country would send 3 contestants and then fight in pairs until the final winner was chosen. Compared to the first 5 competitions, the fighting scene of this competition was obviously more attractive. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the competition stage. Yun Chujio lazily sat on the chair. She had been tormented for the past 2 days, and the 3 winners of the team were naturally all dressed up by her. Earlier on, this fellow had found many precious medicinal herbs in the warehouse of the Imperial Palace of the East Phoenix Kingdom. Among them, there was the 1,000-leaf celestial grade lotus, which was even more effective than the 1,000-leaf gold grade lotus. This fellow had been fiddling with it for a period of time, and finally, he had created a few improved disguise pills. Every disguise pill had a different appearance after being consumed. This was also the reason why no one suspected that the winner of the team was a single person. Of course, another reason was that this guy changed his spiritual power level every time he pretended to win. Therefore, except for a few people under Commander Pang, no one knew that he was pretending to win all 3 times. During the beast taming competition, she once wanted to let Xiao Hanyo or the phoenix egg leak a trace of its aura to make the blood-sucking warblers yield. Later, she felt that it was a bit risky, and it would be bad if people found out. Therefore, in the end, she still fooled those blood-sucking warblers. Yun Chujio felt a little sleepy as she watched. In her daze, she heard someone shouting loudly on the stage. "Didn't your East Phoenix country take first place 3 times? Why are all of you becoming grandsons in this spiritual power competition? Don't say that you are giving way to me. If you have the ability, don't give way to me." Yun Chujio opened her eyes and looked up. There was only one contestant from the South Dragon Kingdom left on the competition stage. Obviously, he was the final winner. Yun Chujio somewhat understood why this contestant was so noisy. The South Dragon Kingdom and East Phoenix Kingdom had also taken first place in 3 events. Unfortunately, during the beast taming competition, Bai Shuiying had obtained 100 points in an instant. The Southern Dragon Kingdom could only settle for second place. Therefore, this contestant was also showing off a few words in order to vent the resentment in his heart. Yun Chujio had always been indifferent to this kind of indifferent provocation. Since he was willing to be a clown, then let him be. The subjects of the East Phoenix Kingdom were obviously as big-hearted as their emperor. They booed and jeered from the audience, not taking that person's provocation seriously at all. The contestant on the stage obviously did not expect such an outcome. He said in a flustered and exasperated manner, "HMPH. They really are a bunch of shameless people. It's not that I'm boasting, but let's not talk about trash like you guys right now. Even if Yun Fengjin is still alive, he's still not my match. What bullshit war god. It's just an undeserved reputation." Before the contestant could finish his sentence, Yun Chujio, who had been sitting lazily on the chair, immediately flew up and landed on the stage. "Are you going to die or do you want me to kill you?" Yun Chujio stared coldly at the contestant, her eyes filled with killing intent. The contestant was just trying to talk his way out of it. Who would have thought that Yun Chujio, as the ruler of a country, would actually come to the stage to threaten him? He was instantly stunned. Pan DN0VE1 CM. He subconsciously took a few steps back, but when he thought about it, this was a competition stage. Even if he had spoken carelessly just now, could the female emperor of Zephyr kill someone in public? Moreover, he was a member of the Southern Dragon Kingdom and not the East Phoenix Kingdom. What could she do to him? When he thought of this, his confidence suddenly increased a lot. He said arrogantly, "Your Majesty, what I said is the truth. If you are not convinced, you can just fight me." That contestant was certain that Yun Chujio could fight him. He was at the 5th level of the spirit transformation realm and was considered to be one of the top existences in the 4 nations. This female emperor Fenghua was only at the 1st level of the spirit transformation realm. If she accepted the challenge, she would be courting death. Commander Pang led a few generals and jumped onto the stage. "Your Majesty, leave it to us to handle." Yun Chujio's body was filled with a cold killing intent. She waved her hand and said, "All of you, go down. I want to kill him with my own hands." Let everyone know that if anyone dares to insult my elders, I will not let them off easily. Although Commander Pang and the others were extremely worried, they still jumped off the stage. However, they did not go far, afraid that something would happen to Yun Chuzhou. Everyone was stunned by this unexpected turn of events. They never expected that not only would the female emperor of Fenghua jump onto the stage, but she would also accept the challenge from the Southern Dragon Kingdom's Yuan Dong. Was she crazy? That Yuan Dong was at the 5th level of the Spirit Transformation Realm. She was only at the 1st level of the Spirit Illusion Realm. This was simply hitting a rock with an egg. Prime Minister Sima was so anxious that his forehead was covered in sweat. Your Majesty, you are usually very astute. Why are you so muddle-headed today? Although that Yuan Dong's crime of insulting the retired emperor was unforgivable, there was no need for you to do it yourself. Yun Zhichen was not too surprised. The nuns of the Yun family's nunnery hall had abused second aunt. More than a dozen people had been chopped up by this ninth sister. Yun Fengjian's family had been killed because they had the intention to harm second aunt. It was clear that this ninth sister was protecting her parents. This Yuan Dong had insulted second uncle in front of the people of the Four Kingdoms. If ninth sister did not do anything, it would be a miracle. However, the difference in spiritual power was so big. Could ninth sister win? Emperor Nan Xian and the other two felt a little strange. On one hand, they wished that Yuan Dong could teach this Empress Fenghua a lesson. On the other hand, they were shocked by the Empress Fenghua's courage. Even in his dreams, Yuan Dong did not expect that Yun Chuzhou would actually dare to fight with him. He turned his head and glanced at Emperor Nan Xian. When he saw that Emperor Nan Xian nodded his head indiscernibly, he instantly felt more confident. As long as he killed the female emperor, he would be the #1 hero of the Southern Dragon Kingdom. His promotion and wealth were just around the corner. It was like a big pie falling from the sky. Therefore, he looked at Yun Chuzhou with disdain and said, "Since your majesty has such an elegant mood, let's have a competition. However, this sword has no eyes. If it hurts you, don't blame me. Since you are on the competition stage, life and death are determined by fate. I am the ruler of a kingdom. I will let you have 3 moves first. Make your move." Yun Chuzhou said lightly. Prime Minister Sima was on the verge of tears. "Your Majesty. At this time, don't pretend to be ignorant. You still want him to use 3 moves. Maybe he can kill you with 3 moves." Obviously, Yuan Dong thought the same. A fierce light flashed in his eyes. This wretched girl really overestimated herself. Since she wanted him to use 3 moves, why should he be polite? Thus, Yuan Dong raised his hand and slapped the top of Yun Chuzhou's head. Yun Chuzhou suddenly jumped to the side and dodged Yuan Dong's palm. She sneered and said, "So that's all." Yuan Dong was shocked. This stinky girl's spiritual power was so low. He didn't expect her movement technique to be so fast. She actually dodged his attack without much effort. He really underestimated her. However, there were still 2 moves left. She would definitely die. Sure enough, Yuan Dong's second palm attack came, and Yun Chuzhou dodged it in a rather pathetic manner. Everyone cried out in surprise. Could it be that this female emperor of Zephyr couldn't dodge the 3rd move? Commander Pang and the others were as anxious as ants on a hot pot. However, they knew that Yun Chuzhou was a person of her word. They didn't dare to disobey her orders, so they could only watch the stage nervously with their hearts in their throats. Pan DN0VE1 C.M. Yuan Dong was overjoyed. This wretched girl was simply too weak. The reason why she was able to dodge the first move so easily was probably due to a blind cat meeting a dead rat. If he put in more effort, the 3rd palm strike would definitely be able to kill her. When Yuan Dong thought of this, he gathered all the spiritual energy in his body onto his right palm. With a thunderous momentum, he slapped towards Yun Chuzhou. He saw that Yun Chuzhou actually stood still on the spot, with a dazed look on her face. He felt proud in his heart. It seemed that this female emperor of the Zephyr nation had already been scared silly. She was dead for sure. The minds of the citizens of the East Feng Kingdom buzzed. Was their emperor silly? Why didn't she dodge? It was over. They had waited with great difficulty for such a good emperor. Could it be that she had been smacked to death just like that? Just when Yuan Dong's hand was only a few inches away from Yun Chuzhou suddenly moved. The bag in her hand was fiercely thrown at Yuan Dong's face. Yuan Dong did not expect that Yun Chuzhou would actually counterattack. Didn't they say that she would give him 3 moves? Therefore, he was hit by the bag. The red powder in the paper bag flew up, choking Yuan Dong's tears and snot. His vision was blurred, and then there were several loud bangs on the entire competition stage. Everyone did not react for a moment. What exactly happened? A moment later, the smoke and dust cleared, and everyone saw a deep pit on the original competition stage. Empress Jiu stood at the edge of the pit expressionlessly. It turned out that after Yun Chuzhou waved a bag of chili noodles, she immediately threw several earth-shattering talismans toward the far east. The power of these earth-shattering talismans was much stronger than the sudden rupture talismans. Even the battle stage that was reinforced by the array formation had been blasted into a deep pit, not to mention Yuan Dong's body of flesh and blood. He had already died a long time ago. The scene was deathly silent. The first thought that emerged in everyone's mind was, didn't we agree to give 3 moves? It seemed that this Empress Fenghua had only given 2 moves, right? Emperor Nan Xian was the first to react. He shouted coldly, Your Majesty Fenghua, you clearly said that you would give Yuan Dong 3 moves. Why did you retaliate in the 3rd move? Furthermore, you are not allowed to use talismans during the competition. Don't you know? Empress Jiu curled the corners of her lips. Your Majesty Nan Xian, don't you know that there is no shortage of deceit in war? Furthermore, I am not competing with him. My goal is to kill him. If you dare to insult my elders, you will have to bear my wrath. Before Emperor Nan Xian could refute, he heard Empress Jiu continue, Also, Your Majesty Nan Xian, your subjects have publicly insulted our country's retired emperor. Is this your order? Do you want to start a war between the 2 countries? Although our Dongfeng kingdom loves peace, we are absolutely not afraid of any provocative actions. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Emperor Nan Xian's old face flushed red. Of course, he did not want to start a war with the East Phoenix Kingdom. Now that his country was in a mess, how could he have the energy to start a war with the East Phoenix Kingdom? Your Majesty Nan Xian, what I said just now might have been a little harsh. I reckon that Yuan Dong's actions are only personal and should have nothing to do with your South Dragon Kingdom, so I won't pursue the matter any further. Host, announce the final ranking of the competition. After Empress Jiu finished speaking, she gracefully leaped back from the competition stage to the VIP area and sat down on her own seat. Emperor Nan Xian didn't manage to squeeze out a single word. What else could he say? That Yuan Dong could only die in vain. This girl was really sinister and cunning, and she was too shameless. The people of the 4 kingdoms clearly had the same thoughts as Emperor Nan Xian. This Empress Fenghua didn't even know what embarrassed meant. She was even more shameless than a street scoundrel. However, they had a consensus in their hearts. Although this Zephyr female emperor's spiritual power was low, she had a lot of bad ideas. It was better not to provoke her. Otherwise, she wouldn't even know how she died. The host glanced at the deep pit on the competition stage. The corners of his eyes twitched as he said a few sentences. Then, he announced the final ranking of the 4 nations grand meeting. First place, East Phoenix Kingdom, second place, South Dragon Kingdom, third place, West Tiger Kingdom, and fourth place, North Xian Kingdom. Emperor Beijing's expression was extremely ugly. He had thought that he could obtain a good result in the beast taming competition and surpass West Tiger Kingdom in one go. Now, he was directly placed at the bottom. It was really embarrassing. Emperor Nanxian and the other two had been mentally preparing for a long time before they finally smiled and congratulated Empress Jiu with a fake smile. Then, they asked tentatively, "Your Majesty Fenghua, this time, all of your East Phoenix Kingdom's disciples have won. Yi Dinjing and Bi Shuiying can be said to be influential figures. May I know their identities and origins?" Empress Jiu smiled. "I'm really sorry. The three of them come from the same sect and usually live in seclusion in the mountains. This time, they specially came here in order to make East Phoenix Kingdom famous." After the competition ended, they had already left the Bloodstream Valley. "Let's talk about the three of them. Even I don't know where they went." Emperor Nanxian and the other two were skeptical. However, they still believed that the three little girls came from the same sect. After all, the shamelessness of the three little girls was obviously taught by the same master. The four of them exchanged a few more pleasantries before leading their respective teams back to their countries. Due to the performance of the Dark Horse at the Four-Nation Banquet, the entire East Phoenix country was in jubilation. The entire East Phoenix country was immersed in great joy. On this day, as soon as Yun Chuzhou entered the court, Prime Minister Sima reported with an uneasy expression, "Your Majesty, the Jingmu country has sent someone to deliver the national letter." Yun Chuzhou frowned. The Jingmu country was a second-tier country. The East Phoenix country only needed to provide the prescribed spirit stones every year. This was not the end of the year, so why would they send the national letter? Yun Chuzhou asked the palace maid to take the national letter. She opened it and took a glance. Immediately, her face was covered with a layer of frost, and she fiercely threw the national letter on the desk. Yun Chuzhou slowed down and asked the palace maid to pass the national letter to all the ministers. When the civil and military officials saw the contents of the letter of the state of the Jingwood Kingdom, they all revealed furious expressions. This was really going too far. The general content of the letter of the state of the Jingwood Kingdom was that they had heard that the newly ascended female emperor of the East Phoenix Kingdom was very beautiful, so they were prepared to let their crown prince marry the female emperor of the East Phoenix Kingdom as a side concubine of the crown prince. If the East Phoenix Kingdom agreed, they could deduct 50% of the tribute of the East Phoenix Kingdom. If the East Phoenix Kingdom didn't agree, then they would send out troops to destroy the East Phoenix Kingdom. The hot-tempered general's son immediately said, "Your Majesty, this Jingmu Kingdom is really too much. They don't put our East Phoenix Kingdom in their eyes at all. I'll go and kill that emissary of the Jingmu Kingdom." Prime Minister Sima berated, "Nonsense. The Jingmu Kingdom is a second-class kingdom. The strength of a single Jingmu Kingdom is even stronger than the four kingdoms combined. If we anger the Jingmu Kingdom, it will be a piece of cake to destroy our East Phoenix Kingdom. Then, according to what you said, are we really going to let our Majesty marry the crown prince of the Jingmu Kingdom as a side concubine? This is simply a great humiliation. Even so, we can't fall out with the Jingmu Kingdom. Otherwise, the consequences will be unimaginable." Yun Chuzhiou's expression was very cold and solemn as she listened to the arguments of the crowd. Even if the three kingdoms of the South Dragon Kingdom were to join forces, she was not afraid. It was just that she did not expect that a second-class kingdom like the Jingmu Kingdom would actually make such a request. Their goal was obviously not to make her become a side concubine of the crown prince. This was a provocation, and they were looking for trouble. Regardless of whether she agreed or not, the Jingmu Kingdom would find an excuse to annex the East Phoenix Kingdom. Logically speaking, the situation of Towering Sky Continent had always been very stable. Other than paying the spirit stones on time, the countries of all levels basically did not interfere with each other. Why did the Jingmu Kingdom insist on annexing the East Phoenix Kingdom? Yun Chuzhou was silent for a moment before slapping the desk. "All right. I have my own ideas on this matter. Crown Prince Yun, immediately send someone to gather information about the Jingmu Kingdom and see if anything unusual has happened. Also, Prime Minister Sima, immediately draft a national letter and say that this matter is of great importance. I will consider it for a month and use a more tactful language so that the messenger from the Jingwood Kingdom can bring it back. Yun Zhichin and Prime Minister Sima nodded in agreement. Although everyone felt uneasy, no one dared to say anything else. After leaving the imperial court, Yun Chuzhou immediately went to the divine hall. Before she could explain why she had come, the imperial preceptor said indifferently, "Your Majesty, I already know why you have come. But our Lihan Palace has never participated in the struggles of the various countries, so please leave." Yun Chuzhou smiled slightly. "Imperial Preceptor, aren't you afraid that after our East Phoenix Kingdom is annexed by the Wellwood Kingdom, your position will be lost?" The Imperial Preceptor's expression stiffened for a moment, and then he said, "Even so, I will not violate the Lihan Palace's rules. When the time comes, the Palace Master will decide." Yun Chuzhou saw that the Imperial Tutor was not willing to accept the carrot and stick, so she could only return in defeat. It seemed that she could not count on the Imperial Tutor and the Lihan Palace, so she could only think of another way. After a few days, Yun Zhichin came to see Yun Chuzhou. "Your Majesty, because second-class countries do not allow people from third-class countries to enter, the information we can get is very limited." "It's okay. Give me the information you have gathered. Let me have a look." Yun Chuzhou took the summary of the information that Yun Zhichin handed over and started to read it. Yun Chuzhou didn't find any useful information from the beginning to the end, but from the information she had gathered, it could at least prove that the actions of the Jingmu Kingdom this time had nothing to do with the three kingdoms of the South Dragon Kingdom. Then, why did the Jingmu Kingdom suddenly attack? Yun Chuzhou recalled the basic information about the Jingwood Kingdom. The Jingwood Kingdom was a second-class kingdom on towering Sky Continent, and it had 10 third-class vassal states under its jurisdiction. Among them, the East Phoenix Kingdom and the other 4 kingdoms were obviously stronger than the other 6 kingdoms. Yun Chuzhou calculated that if they fell out with the Jingwood Kingdom, the East Phoenix Kingdom basically had no chance of winning. The Jingmu Kingdom's strength suppressed the Dongfeng Kingdom, not to mention that as long as the Jingmu Kingdom gave the order, the other 9 vassal states would attack together, and the Dongfeng Kingdom would only have a dead end. For now, she could only think of a way to find out the reason why the Jingmu Kingdom's crown prince wanted to marry her as the crown prince's side concubine. Only then could she have a solution. Yun Zhichin saw the deep look in Yun Chuzhou's eyes, and asked tentatively, "Your Majesty, what do you plan to do?" Yun Chuzhou raised her eyebrows and whispered a few words to Yun Zhichin. Yun Zhichin cried out in alarm, "Your Majesty! That's not right. Aren't you entering the tiger's mouth like a sheep? This is too risky." Yun Chuzhou said indifferently, "Other than that, do you have a better idea?" This is not true, but you can't do that either. No one will agree." Yun Zhichin shook his head repeatedly. Yun Chuzhou's tone was still indifferent. "Even if you don't agree, you have to agree. Are you going to watch our East Phoenix Kingdom be destroyed?" Yun Zhichin saw the determination in Yun Chuzhou's eyes and knew that she had made up her mind. He could only remain silent. After Yun Zhichin left, Yun Chuzhou held her chin and pondered for a moment. Then, a light flashed in her eyes and she took out 3 voice transmission talismans. "Your Majesty Nanxian, I plan to visit Your Majesty Mu Xian in the Jingwood Kingdom in the next few days. Is Your Majesty Nanxian willing to go with me? I'm sure you know that the Crown Prince of the Jingwood Kingdom has asked me to be his concubine. I'm going there to meet the Crown Prince of the Jingwood Kingdom and exchange my feelings. I also want to see the prosperity of the second-class countries. If Your Majesty Nanxian wants to go with you, I'll mention it in the national letter. I'm sure Your Majesty Mu Xian won't refuse." Yun Chuzhou sent the same message to Emperor Xuan and Emperor Beijing. She believed that the 3 of them would agree. Second-class countries had always been high and mighty. They rarely allowed people from third-class countries to enter. People were curious. Naturally, Emperor Nanxian and the other 2 wanted to see what a second-class country was like. Moreover, this was a good opportunity to suck up to them. Perhaps Emperor Mu Xian would cut the tributes of the 3 countries when he was happy. How could they let go of such a rare opportunity? As expected, Emperor Nan Xian and the other two quickly replied and expressed their willingness to go together. Yun Chujiu immediately asked Prime Minister Sima to draft a national letter and sent Yun Zhichen to the border of Dongfeng Kingdom and Jingmu Kingdom. After Yun Zhichen explained the purpose of his visit, he gave a lot of spiritual stones to the manager of Jingmu Kingdom's relay station. The manager immediately sent someone to send the national letter to the capital of Jingmu Kingdom. Mu Xian agreed to Yun Chujiu's request. However, he stated that Yun Chujiu and the other three could only bring 10 followers each. Yun Chujiu did not mind. No matter how many people she brought, they were no match for the Jingmu country. 4 people were enough. Yun Chujiu thought for a while and brought Prime Minister Sima along. Then, she brought 2 palace maids and 6 guards and set off from An City. When Yun Chujiu and the others arrived at the border, Emperor Nan Xian and the other two had already brought their attendants and were waiting there. Yun Chujiu revealed a bright smile and nodded slightly. After not seeing you for a few days, your majesties look even more radiant. When Emperor Nan Xian and the other two saw Yun Chujiu's happy expression, they thought to themselves, is this girl trying to climb up to a higher position? Although the status of the crown prince and side concubine of the Jingmu kingdom was much higher than that of the emperor of the Dongfeng kingdom, no matter how high the status was, it was still not as relaxed as the emperor of a kingdom. Although the 3 of them thought so in their hearts, they still congratulated her on the surface. Yun Chujiu squeezed out a blush on her face and pretended to be shy. The corner of Prime Minister Sima's eyes twitched. Fortunately, he knew that His Majesty was not willing. Otherwise, even he would have thought that His Majesty could not help but be happy. After the group of people arrived at the border of the Jingmu kingdom, the attitude of the guards was very bad. They only let them go after they were asked to register one by one. Emperor Nan Xian and the others had never suffered such cowardice before. Their expressions immediately turned ugly. At this moment, a middle-aged man came over with some followers. Your Majesties, I'm really sorry for being late to welcome you. Please forgive me. Although that person spoke very politely, his expression was extremely arrogant and did not have the slightest bit of apology. Emperor Nan Xian and the other two immediately frowned, but when they thought of the other party being a second-class country's minister, they could only endure it even if they were displeased. Yun Chujiu, on the other hand, smiled like a flower and asked, "May I know how to address you, my lord?" That person glanced at Yun Chujiu and was stunned for a moment. He thought to himself, this Empress Fenghua is really good-looking. No wonder the crown prince wants to marry her as a side concubine. That person regained his senses and said, "My surname is Wu. Your Majesty, please follow me on the flying spirit tool." After the group boarded the flying spiritual device, Lord Wu found an excuse and left the cabin where the 4 of them were. It was obvious that he had no intention of entertaining them. Emperor Nan Xian was so angry that he gritted his teeth. This is outrageous. Even if we are a vassal state, the status of the monarch of our state should be higher than his, right? How can he be so arrogant? Emperor Shuan and Emperor Beijing's expressions were also extremely unsightly. They had always been a man of their word, so they had never received such cold treatment. Yun Chujiu's expression was the same as usual. She said with a faint smile, "There are lengths to the fingers, so this person is naturally different. I believe that His Majesty Mu Xian will treat us well when we arrive at Jing City." Hearing this, Emperor Nan Xian and the other two didn't say anything more. After all, they were already mentally prepared. In order to reduce the number of tributes and to broaden their horizons, they had no choice but to endure it. What else could they do? Lord Wu had sent people to bring in food several times during the journey, but the appearance, fragrance, and smell were all very ordinary. Emperor Nan Xian and the other 3 did not eat anything. 3 days later, the flying spirit tool finally arrived at Jing City. Only then did Lord Wu show up again. He did not explain much and said arrogantly, "Your Majesties, follow me into the city." Although Emperor Nanxian and the other two were dissatisfied, they were shocked when they saw the majestic city in front of them. As expected of the capital of a second-tier country. Just the city gates and city walls were enough to make this trip worthwhile. When Lord Wu saw the expressions of Emperor Nanxian and the others, his eyes were filled with even more disdain. Although these four were the rulers of a country, in the eyes of the Jingmu kingdom, they were just a bunch of country bumpkins. They were all lower-class people. Although the female emperor of Fenghua was quite beautiful, her spiritual power was too low. Being a side concubine of the crown prince was really flattering to her. No wonder she took the initiative to run over. If she were to see their crown prince's graceful bearing, she would probably be even more eager to catch up with him. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.